Chapter 887. Tianyun controlled the spirit ship to fly forward quickly. He didn't stop along the way. If he didn't have enough spiritual power, he would take some medicinal pellets. He wanted to reach the divine domain as fast as possible. He couldn't afford to waste any time. He had plenty of time, but it could also be said that he didn't have enough time. I'm almost there. Flying at high speed, he spent an entire month's time, and he was finally about to enter the divine territory. It was thanks to the spirit ship's speed that he could fly so fast. If he didn't have the spirit ship, he wouldn't even be able to reach 1/10 of the spirit ship's speed unless his phoenix bloodline was upgraded to the highest level. If he flew at his fastest speed, it would take him at least a year to reach the divine domain. If he was a Spirit King stage cultivator, he would most likely die outside. There were many planets along the way, but the spiritual power of those planets was thin. Even if they could accommodate people, it would take more than 100 years to reach the divine domain. And this was under the premise that there was no danger to reach the divine domain. How much willpower would it take to fly alone outside for 100 years? That person would probably become stupid from flying alone for 100 years. Tianyun looked at the map on the astrolabe. There were many light spots on it, and he was flying towards the nearest place. According to the astrolabe, there was a city nearby, and it was a very big city. It could be regarded as the entrance to the divine domain. Outside the divine domain, there were also countless areas, but they weren't turned into the divine domain. Instead, they were collectively known as Fanyu. When he was about to reach the divine domain, he quickly flew out of the spirit ship and touched it with his hand. Store it. Immediately, the spirit ship was stored in the inventory. It only occupied one of the inventory. It can be said that it didn't take up any space. If he wanted to store the spirit ship, unless he had a storage ring with an amazing capacity, it really couldn't be stored. This spirit ship couldn't be changed in size, and just storing it would take up a lot of space. Of course, General Long T's storage ring could accommodate this spirit ship. But what place could be safer than his own inventory? After flying out, he continued to fly forward. As he got closer and closer, he gradually began to see cultivators flying in front of him. These cultivators were not limited to the human race. There were many other strange races, such as the rock tribe. Their bodies were made of rocks, and they looked very strange. There were all sorts of strange races, but the human race was still the most numerous, mainly because of their reproductive ability. It had to be said that the human race was definitely a top-notch existence. There's even a God King. Not long after he approached, he saw a God King expert, but he wasn't from the human race, he was from another race. As for the other races, even the weakest among them was at Spirit King stage. There were also other small spirit ships carrying people to the front. It could be said that people from all over the world of Fanyu were constantly flying toward the divine realm. I wonder where the heaven-creating divine king and the others are now. Tianyun furrowed his brows. He didn't know what situation the three god kings were in. They hadn't returned for so long. It was very likely that they were trapped or busy with something and temporarily couldn't get away. After all, if they were to fly to the three realms from here, it would take them at most a few years to return. They either fell in love with the divine realm and didn't want to go back, or they were trapped. Tianyun believed that the latter was more likely. It was unlikely that they would abandon the three realms. Judging from their serious attitude towards protecting the three realms, he believed that they would never abandon the three realms. There are so many cultivators, and their cultivation is not low. Sure enough, the three realms is a small world, and the outside world is the real big world. Tianyun looked at the situation in front of him with excitement. Just when he was about to enter the divine realm, a cultivator suddenly flew over from the side. Hey, brother, are you going to the divine realm? The cultivation of the young man who flew over was not low. He was at the second level of the divine king stage, which was really a common cultivation. If he came to the three realms with this cultivation, wouldn't he be a king? I think there's no other way except to go to the divine realm, right? Tianyun said with a faint smile. Without a doubt, this guy flew over alone. Naturally, he had to find someone to go with him. It was undoubtedly a better choice to go with him. I am Lei Zhengyu. Can I go to the divine realm with you? Lei Zhengyu said awkwardly. I flew for a long time to come to this area. I have to say that the divine realm is really too far, and I almost got lost outside. Alright, let's go together. I also flew for a long time to get here. Yi Tianyun smiled. This Lei Zhengyu was quite friendly and didn't have any arrogance. Immediately, Yi Tianyun also introduced himself, and the two started to get familiar with each other. As they flew, they chatted with each other. Yi Tianyun learned that the area where Lei Zhengyu was located was also a poor and remote place. His cultivation was the highest, so he felt that it would be difficult for him to break through again, so he flew to the divine realm. The difference was that the area where Lei Zhengyu was located was not that far away, and he was very clear about the divine realm. After reaching the God King stage or the Saint King stage, he could leave and choose to go to the divine realm. Although Lei Zhengyu was the leader, he didn't have any arrogance. Instead, he looked very friendly. This wasn't an act. Obviously, even as the leader, he was very friendly. We're here. The divine realm should be in front of us. It looks so spectacular. Lei Zhengyu was excited. There was a huge passage in front of them, and there were many spirit ships and cultivators flying inside. From here, they would officially enter the divine realm. It wasn't that there were no entrances in other places, but this was one of the entrances. Because it was the closest, Yi Tianyun would definitely enter from here. Yi Tianyun's eyes flickered, and he wondered what the scene in the divine realm would be like. Immediately, the two of them flew forward quickly. When they entered the passage, the power around them began to change. Vaguely, Yi Tianyun felt that it wasn't spiritual force, but another kind of energy. However, the appraisal eye couldn't see it, so he didn't know what kind of energy it was. After they passed through the passage, they didn't enter another star field, but a hall. He didn't expect that they would be teleported to a hall, and not to the outside star field. As soon as they entered, they saw many guards standing on the side, looking at them coldly. Everyone stand here, if you resist, you will be killed. These guards were all God King stage cultivators, and none of them were not. God King stage cultivators, all guards. Yi Tianyun was shocked. Wasn't this treatment a bit too terrifying? Chapter 888. Outside, Yang Kai had worked hard to cultivate to the God King stage or Saint King stage, but here, he was at best a guard, not a leader, but a very ordinary guard. This really made Yi Tianyun feel like he fell from the peak to the starting point. However, the lowest cultivation level of the cultivators who came here was the Spirit King stage, and those with lower cultivation level couldn't come here easily. Those who were only at the Spirit King stage had to ride a spirit ship to get here. If they only relied on their physical strength, it would be difficult for them to get here. Star Lord stage, stand here. Those who are below Star Lord stage, stand over there. At this time, a stronger cultivator stood in this direction and signaled them to stand in line. This person's cultivation level is even more overbearing, and it gives Yi Tianyun a feeling that he is at the same level as General Long Tae. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Tianyun for entering the New World, God Realm. Successfully deducted 50 million crazy points, carrying out comprehensive data upgrade. What? Yi Tianyun was shocked. He didn't know what happened, but 50 million crazy points were deducted. He wanted to use it to upgrade crazy mode, but it was deducted just like that. Ding! 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 System upgrade successfully. Cultivation level has been changed to conform to the rules of God Realm. All major systems and combat power system have been changed, and the data of appraisal eye has been upgraded. Ding! 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 Changes successfully. Soon after, a wave of information continuously surged into his mind, starting to change various major data. After he understood this, his heart trembled. First was the change in cultivation. Cultivation was no longer at the God-King stage. God-King stage was a term only used in the mortal realm. It was completely different in this place. Generally speaking, it is Star Lord, 9 refinements Earth Lord, Lord of Heaven, Divine Monarch, Heavenly Lord, God Emperor. Every level was still divided into 10 levels. This had not changed. The main point is that the title of the creator has also changed. It is no longer the top-level title, but directly changed to Divine Craftsman, Divine Alchemist, and Divine Carving Master. The 3 levels correspond to the level of the creator, and at the same time, it is divided into 9 levels. To put it bluntly, the creator was only at the rank 1 realm. There were even higher realms beyond that. All aspects of data began to be updated. Now, when he looked at the guards, whether it was their cultivation, the way they addressed them, or their battle prowess, they had all changed greatly. Gu Yanlong, 2nd Refinement Earth Monarch, wearing low-grade divine equipment, martial art, dragon revolving spell, rebirth level. Overall combat power, 20,000 star power. Lei Zhengyu, grade 3 star monarch, wears a low-grade divine artifact, knows martial arts. Overall combat power is 1,300 points. With a glance, the data was refreshed. This so-called Star Lord was actually a God King stage cultivator. How could it be called the God King stage here? It could only be considered as a relatively normal cultivation, an entry-level cultivation. As for combat power, it was directly replaced with star power. 1 point of star power was equivalent to 100 million. This star power naturally referred to the star power of the god's domain. Not only had his cultivation improved, but even his martial arts and weapon grade had changed greatly. From the initial heaven-level martial arts to the reincarnation level, this was an even stronger level of martial arts. If he continued to go up, there would naturally be more, but the data was too huge, it was really difficult to react for a while. Ding! Congratulations to player E Tianyun for getting God's Domain Entry Gift Pack. After deducting 50 million crazy points, other than the updated data, there was no other change. He felt a little pain just now, but now he got an extra God's Domain Entry Gift Pack, it seems to be not bad. Immediately, he opened the gift pack without hesitation, and a pleasant voice sounded. Successfully opened the God's Domain Entry Gift Pack, received primary God's Domain Lottery Roulette, an extra lottery ticket, 200 times EXP card, 50 times Crazy Point card, 50 times Mastery card, 50 times Sin Value card, and also received 9th Refinement Earth Monarch Gift Pack, must be 9th Refinement Earth Monarch to open. Good stuff. Yi Tianyun's eyes lit up, these things are definitely worth up to 50 million crazy points. Although other things did not upgrade, such as Crazy Mode did not upgrade, and Appraisal Eye did not upgrade, but all aspects of the data have been upgraded, even if it didn't upgrade, he can use the Appraisal Eye. After all, the level of the Appraisal Eye did not upgrade, but the data has been upgraded, which means that the level of the Appraisal Eye is enough. It's just that the data is insufficient, even if the level is enough, it doesn't mean anything. No matter what, at least he won't be blinded by it. Of course, he can still investigate the information around him, he can still understand the situation of the god's domain, but it is definitely not as convenient and fast as the Appraisal Eye. Brother E, why are you in a daze? Hurry up and line up. Lei Zhengyu next to him patted him on the shoulder and signaled him to hurry up and line up. Yi Tianyun nodded and followed Lei Zhengyu to the front, and stood on the side with the others. At this time, he found that there are still a lot of people around, there are people from all major races, only the 2 of them are human cultivators. This is a bit embarrassing, the number of human cultivators is relatively large, but because of the bloodline, their cultivation is not as good as others. But they are all God King stage, to be exact, they are all star monarchs, and there are more than 30 of them. Here, they are like cabbages, he is the only star monarch in the 3 realms. Although they looked like cabbages, it was unknown how many experts from different forces had gathered here. From the astrolabe map, Fan Yu is very vast, even larger than the entire God's domain, so the result can be imagined. Every force has one star monarch, but there are hundreds or even thousands of them. They are not cabbages, but they are not cabbages. After all, there are only hundreds of star monarchs in so many forces. They are not cabbages, but they can be seen everywhere here. It really feels like they are just getting started. After waiting in line, not long after, Gu Yanlong, who is the leader, walked back and forth in front of them and said coldly, "The God's domain you are in now is called the Heavenly Mandate Divine Realm. Now you have the chance to choose whether to join the Heavenly Mandate Divine Realm or not. If you join the Heavenly Mandate Divine Realm, you will have to listen to the orders of the Heavenly Mandate Divine Realm. No matter where you come from, what you have done in the past, what your status is, or how many people respect you. Here, you will absolutely obey our instructions. If you do not obey our instructions, the result will be death." Gu Yanlong's aura pressed over, making them feel a little weak in their legs. The difference in cultivation is too big, just the aura alone can crush them to death. Everyone's heart trembled, and many people's arrogance was restrained. They are indeed used to being the leaders in the other world, and they are not very willing to obey orders here. Now that the aura is pressed, they immediately know what it means to say that there is always a mountain higher than the mountain, and there is always someone better. Ding! God's domain mission mode started. Accepted the main mission, breakthrough to the 9th refining Earth Lord, completed the reward, 500 million crazy points, 500 million SPS, 500 million mastery. Chapter 889. What's going on? You want me to break through to the 9th refinement Earthly Monarch Realm? Yi Tianyun was dumbfounded when he saw the first mission. His current cultivation level was not low, as he had reached the 8th level of the Divine King stage. In this case, he was ready to reach the level of the Earth Lord, but he still felt that the mission came a little too early. This was the main mission that allowed him to break through. As for the mission to destroy the ancestral land of the evil spirit clan, it was not activated at all. Obviously, his cultivation level was not enough, so he would not be able to kill his way there. Unless he reached the area of the ancestral land now, the mission might be activated in advance. While he was surprised, the situation around him changed a little. All the cultivators were shocked. They were all very arrogant, and they could be called kings in their previous areas. They thought the same when they came here, and they felt that they could definitely be kings. In the world of Fanyu, they could be kings, so it was not a problem here. Although they seemed to be more honest, they were not convinced. Wasn't it just a guard? After they got the resources here, they would be able to climb up quickly. At that time, they would be able to trample everyone under their feet and climb to a higher peak. This was what most people thought. Gu Yanlong seemed to know what they were thinking. After glancing at them, he said coldly, "I know that you must be very unconvinced, but there are many geniuses in Fanyu who came here, and in the end, there are only a few who can persist in the end. Let me tell you, the cultivation level that you have broken through to this place is indeed amazing, but to be honest, it is just the beginning. The cultivation in the past was just a game, and it was not interesting at all. From now on, you need to use your life to break through. Of course, what you think is your own business. Now, I want you to be absolutely obedient. If any of you is much stronger than me, I will obediently bow to you. Whether it is in your world or in the divine realm, strength is respected. The stronger the person, the more right to speak. I will ask you one last time. Are you willing to work for the heavenly mandate divine realm and never betray it?" They looked at each other, and one of the Star Lords looked at him and said, "What if we want to join other divine realms?" There wasn't just one divine domain, but many of them. God's domain was equivalent to a country. However, this God's domain was simply too vast. Its range was equivalent to hundreds of the 3 realms. There were also countless planets in God's domain. It could be said that the divine realm's resources were hundreds, or even thousands, of times more than the 3 realms. The difference between the two was inconceivable. The further away the God domain was, the lower the grade of the God domain. For example, the heavenly mandate divine realm was actually equivalent to a first-grade divine realm, which was the lowest level. It was a very simple and crude naming method. The God domain was divided into 5 grades. The outermost was the first-grade God domain, while the innermost was the second-grade God domain. After this star monarch raised the question, the others looked over and were shocked. They had already joined in, and yet he had already said such a thing. Wasn't he courting death? Of course. If you wish to join a God's domain of the same level, you must have the corresponding contribution points. Once you have accumulated enough contribution points, you can leave. If you wish to join a higher grade God's domain, we welcome you with open arms. You don't need any contribution points. Instead, we will reward you. Gu Yanlong looked at them coldly and said, I know you are biting off more than you can chew, but let me make it clear here. Wait until you break through to a higher level of earthly monarch. Without earthly monarchs of 5th refinement and above, the higher grade God's domain won't even bother to recruit you. They looked at each other and felt that this was unbelievable. They didn't expect there to be such rules. By the way, I'm telling you so much because I value talent. It's not easy for you to cultivate to this level. I've been there before. Gu Yanlong was expressionless, but there was some warmth in his words. After all, the real overbearing superiors couldn't be bothered to say more. I'm willing to serve the heavenly mandate divine realm. I'm willing too. They all chose to join. If they wanted to join a force, they had to be loyal to that force. Whether it was Fan Yu's force or the God's domain, the rules were about the same. If they recruited an ingrate, no one would be happy to do so. Yi Tianyun also chose to join the heavenly mandate divine realm. He believed that the other gods' domains were about the same. It was like recruiting a new disciple. There would be stricter rules in all aspects. I almost forgot to tell you. If you want to join the heavenly mandate divine realm, you can't join if you don't have enough standards. At most, you can be an outer sect disciple like the others. You can serve the heavenly mandate divine realm as an outer sect disciple first. You can only join officially when you have enough qualifications. Gu Yanlong said. When the time comes, let me see if you can really keep your arrogance down. They all nodded. This was for sure. If they didn't go through the test, the heavenly mandate divine realm would definitely not let them join. Gu Yanlong didn't continue speaking. He led them forward, as if he was going to take them to the test venue. When they followed, they had only taken a few steps when Lei Zhengyu was violently pushed away. Human brat, stand back. The one who pushed Lei Zhengyu away was a cultivator from the tree clan. His entire body was covered in tree roots, and a strong vitality surrounded his body. That's right. Human cultivators, stand behind us and line up obediently. I didn't expect that a lowly race like the humans could cultivate to such a level. I don't know what kind of luck they have. All of them looked at them with unfriendly gazes. They looked down on them from the bottom of their hearts. What did you say? Lei Zhengyu's anger immediately surged up. His body released crackling sounds of lightning. What, you want to fight? They didn't care at all. Yi Tianyun reached out and patted Lei Zhengyu's shoulder. He smiled faintly and said, don't be angry. Calm down. Oh, this human is more sensible. He needs to know his place. Do you understand? The cultivator from the tree clan looked at him with contempt. What place? It's just servility. The humans just need to step on them a little, and they will immediately compromise, another person from the tree clan sneered. Brother Yi, we can't let them look down on us. Lei Zhengyu looked very peaceful, but when faced with this kind of situation, he would never give in. You misunderstood me. Why bother arguing with trash like them? Trash is trash. Get out of my way, you who cut in line. Yi Tianyun didn't expect that Yi Tianyun would attack him, and he didn't even have time to react. Bang! Yi Tianyun kicked the tree race treant, and the tree race treant was sent flying. He hit the wall on the side, and several of his branches were broken. Then he looked at the stunned Lei Zhengyu and laughed. Sometimes, don't talk nonsense with them. Just do it and slap their cheap mouths. Chapter 890. Yi Tianyun kicked them without hesitation. No matter where they were, as long as they looked down on them, they would fight back immediately. If they chose to swallow their anger, they would not be able to raise their heads here. After all, humans were the minority here, not the majority. Lei Zhengyu was dumbfounded. He thought that Yi Tianyun wanted to compromise, but now it seemed that it was not the case at all. Yi Tianyun attacked without any warning. Bastard, you trash human, I will kill you. The Tree Clan member roared and rushed over, wanting to fight with Yi Tianyun. Being kicked out by a human in front of so many people, one could imagine the humiliation in his heart. How could he not want revenge? Enough. Gu Yanlong stepped forwards, causing a terrifying shockwave to descend, forcing the Treant to stop. The other Treants who wanted to attack were also forced to stand where they were, not daring to move at all. Gu Yanlong walked over step by step, looked at them coldly, and said, quite energetic. If you want to fight, wait until the assessment is over. I will not object to it. Now line up obediently, and don't make trouble, understand? Understood. One by one, the tree race nodded, but their eyes were filled with anger as they stared at Yi Tianyun with a look of determination. Yi Tianyun didn't bother to pay attention to them, he just walked along with Lei Zhengyu according to the original line. In fact, there was no need to line up here, but the tree race didn't like the human race, so they came here to cause trouble. Gu Yanlong looked Yi Tianyun up and down, and a subtle smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He did not blame them and led the way. After Gu Yanlong walked forward, the Tree Clan member behind him said coldly, boy, if you have the guts, fight with me after the assessment is over. Shu Xiong, maybe they can't even pass the assessment, and they are not qualified to fight with you, his companion Shu Han sneered. If one wanted to join the Heavenly Mandate Divine Realm, the test would definitely not be simple. Even if one reached the Star Lord level, one could not enter at will. After all, Star Venerates had different levels of strength. This was just like the evil spirit race. They were at the same level, but when they detonated their bloodline, they would instantly explode, and they would definitely be able to instantly kill opponents of the same level. That's true. Let's see your performance in this assessment, fool. Shu Xiong coldly snorted. If he could have done it, he would have done it long ago. Gu Yanlong had already said it, so he definitely couldn't continue to act recklessly. The other races showed expressions of schadenfreude. Although they didn't come to cause trouble, their expressions showed that they were also extremely disdainful of the human race. A cold light flashed in Yi Tianyun's eyes. He couldn't be bothered with these races. Some things couldn't be easily changed. If he wanted to change their minds, he could only make himself stronger. Under Gu Yanlong's lead, they passed through the corridor and walked forward. After walking out, they saw a spacious hall. Originally, he thought that he would walk out of this hall. Who knew that after walking for a while, he would end up in another hall? However, there was a huge matrix in the center of this hall. They could see a holy divine light shining down from the sky. Looking up, there was nothing outside. It was just a very normal sky. The assessment later is very simple. If you can last more than 2 days here, you can officially join our Heavenly Mandate Divine Realm. Gu Yanlong stood in front of the matrix and looked at them. He explained, the light shining down from here is actually nothing special. It's just the special energy outside the Divine Realm. Since it's your first time here, you must go through a special baptism and transformation before you can truly be considered a member of the Divine Realm. After transformation, your most basic energy will be transformed into star power. The longer you can last, the better the effect, and the more thorough the transformation will be. When that time comes, it will be of great help to your future cultivation. 2 days is the most basic. If you can't last more than 2 days, you can only become an outer disciple. We can determine whether you can join us through your future contributions. If you can last more than 2 days, then you can successfully join the Heavenly Mandate Divine Realm. Gu Yanlong explained in detail, and they all nodded. So there was such a thing. If they stayed here for a long time, they could also transform the power in their bodies. Star power, Yi Tianyun's eyes flashed. He thought of the other people's data with the appraisal eye. They had all changed. It turned out that it had really turned into star power. Lei Zhengyu had not gone through the baptism, but his data was still judged by star power. There was no problem. Lord Gu, what is the current record? Yi Tianyun asked at this time. Everyone looked at him with disdain in their eyes. Pfft, you talk as if you can break the record, Shu Xiong beside him couldn't help but mock. The current record in the Heavenly Mandate Divine Realm is 10 days. Those who have achieved this are now the Lord of Heaven of the Heavenly Mandate Divine Realm, the successor of the next region Lord. Gu Yanlong looked at Yi Tianyun and said, if you can break this record or get close to it, you can get focus training and directly become a core training target. Everyone's eyes lit up. This was a great temptation. If they could last longer, it would have a great impact on their future. Yi Tianyun nodded. He definitely wanted to get close to the record or create a record. It was impossible to stand firm here and keep a low profile. The more low profile one was, the less it was possible to get more resources. Especially in this country full of discrimination, if one's strength was not strong, who would obey you? Not to mention that they would give you more resources. If there are no more questions, we can start the test now. There is no time limit. The test will start as soon as you enter. If you faint halfway, it will be the end. No matter how you try, you won't have this kind of opportunity again, Gu Yanlong said. After that, everyone immediately began to prepare to enter the test. Shu Xiong sneered at the side. 2 days. I hope you don't faint right away. But if you fail, I think you will definitely die a little worse. If he did not join the Heavenly Mandate Divine Realm, the difference in status would be even greater. By then, Shu Xiong could kill him however he wanted. If there was a huge difference in status, there would be no restrictions to execute people at will. Is that so? Take care of yourself first. Yi Tianyun didn't bother to pay attention to him. He turned his head to look at Lei Zhengyu and said, we humans have always been looked down upon. This time, we have to last 2 days no matter what, the longer the better. Chapter 891. One by one, the examinees stepped into the formation. As soon as they stepped in, a divine light shone down from above and enveloped the examinees. Following that, intense energy crazily poured into the cultivators' bodies and began to transform them crazily. They wanted to transform the low-level energy in their bodies into energy that was compatible with the divine realm. The cultivators outside who did not enter saw that those who had just entered were immediately filled with terrifying energy. A lot of energy in their bodies was squeezed out one after another. It turned out that no matter what kind of energy it was being squeezed out bit by bit. It was obvious that the energy in the body was first squeezed out, then filled the body with new energy, and finally, the body was transformed. This process would probably take at least 2 days to be considered a considerable transformation. They didn't give him 2 days for no reason. There must be a reason for it. It was just that this process was extremely painful. The energy was quickly stripped out and followed by new energy. Because this energy was very violent, it would take another process to subdue it. However, they were all star lords and top powerhouses in the Fan Yu world. They definitely had some ability. Yi Tianyun and Lei Zhengyu looked at each other and walked in. As soon as he entered, Yi Tianyun also felt a violent energy pouring into his head and began to transform the spiritual energy in his body. He quickly sat down and began to stabilize this violent energy so that he could transform the energy in his body. His most basic energy had always been spiritual energy. If it was transformed into star power, his power in battle would definitely be raised to a higher level. This reminded him of the battle with the evil spirit race powerhouses before. He always felt that their power was very terrifying, and the energy that they erupted was different. It seemed like it was star power. They had a higher level of energy, so they had a natural advantage in battle. Just this alone was enough to leave them in the dust. Even if he had the crazy system now, it had nothing to do with changing his physique. The only thing that was related was the power of the bloodline in his body, which could withstand more energy and carry out faster transformation. What he had always been proud of was his physique. His dragon god bloodline was at the 8th grade and almost reached the peak. His current physique was quite strong, and his bare hands were equivalent to the strength of a middle-grade divine artifact. Therefore, this so-called test was nothing more than a test of the strength of the physique and the strength of the perseverance. His willpower had never lost to anyone, whether it was in the past or now. Right now, crazy mode couldn't provide any help at all. Everything depended on what he had gained over the years. You must hold on. Tianyun closed his eyes and started devouring the energy around him, circulating the tyrannical devouring heaven divine art. Others would love nothing more than to rush in slowly, but he wanted to be faster. He wanted to completely transform his body. He wanted to become strong enough to protect his family. Ah! A blood-curdling scream rang out from the side. It had only been less than a day, and someone had already fainted. After fainting, the cultivator no longer absorbed star power. The transformation could only be considered complete. Gu Yanlong did not drag him out. In a sense, the transformation was already complete. In the future, there would be no problem for him to move around freely in God's domain. Since that was the case, he could just wait for them to wake up. There was no need to drag them out. Less than a day. Gu Yanlong shook his head. He felt that the cultivator was too weak. He was so arrogant before, but now he fainted as soon as he came in. How embarrassing. Captain Gu, are these the newcomers? At this moment, a cultivator walked over. From the structure of his body, he was from the Treant tribe. Gu Yanlong was not from the Treant tribe, but he was from the Dragon tribe. To be able to become the captain of this place, he must not be simple. Oh, it's Captain Shu Yuan. Aren't you at the other entrance? How come you have the time to come here? Gu Yanlong looked at Shu Yuan with a disgusted expression. I'm here to run some errands, so I came to see what new disciples you've recruited. Shu Yuan looked up and his eyes lit up when he saw people from his own tribe taking the test. These 2 seedlings are not bad. I didn't expect disciples from our tribe to take the test. He nodded and saw Tianyun and Lei Zhengyu sitting next to him. His happy expression immediately turned into a frown. Captain Gu, are humans allowed to take the test? Captain Shu Yuan, I'm just following the rules. I don't think there are any rules that prohibit humans from taking the test, right? Gu Yanlong said calmly. That's true. But none of the people who came to take the test lasted even a day. It's too weak. It's not interesting at all. Even if he successfully passed, didn't he still make a fuss before and embarrass the heavenly mandate realm? Shu Yuan said discontentedly, I won't let humans take the test. They can join whatever force they want. Gu Yanlong frowned and said in a low voice, that's an exception. Captain Shu Yuan, you're not following the rules. What if you miss out on the good seedlings? Good seedlings? You don't think these 2 boys are good seedlings, do you? Shu Yuan laughed. I've taken the test of so many human cultivators. It's good enough if 1 out of 100 is good enough. Captain Gu, your eyes are still not good enough. It's a waste of resources to take in human cultivators. Oh, I don't think they're bad. Captain Gu said calmly, if there's nothing else, Captain Shu Yuan, you can go back. Captain Gu, I've heard that you're quite stubborn. I won't go now. Shu Yuan looked at his 2 clansmen and sneered. How about we make a bet? If one of those 2 humans surpasses my clansmen, I'll lose. If I lose, I'll give one of them a place in the selection. How about that? On the other hand, if you lose, you'll give your place to my 2 clansmen. How about that? Captain Gu frowned. The place in the selection was very important. Every captain could only get a place in the selection once every 10 years. The place in the selection was actually to let them enter a special treasure pavilion in the Heavenly Mandate sacred region and obtain treasures according to their abilities. This treasure could be a martial art, or it could be a weapon, or it could even be some kind of treasure. It was hard to say. In short, they might return empty-handed, or they might obtain excellent treasures. They could only get one chance to make the selection after serving here for 10 years. They could use it themselves or give it to the newcomers they admired. What, you don't dare to bet? Xu Yuan shook his head and said, even Captain Gu thinks that the human race can't win. It's impossible for such a small race to win. Chapter 892. Seeing that Gu Yanlong was willing to bet with him, Xu Yuan was overjoyed. After all, it was a free gift. How could he not be happy? Seeing that Gu Yanlong was so supportive of the human race, he wanted to set Gu Yanlong up. Who knew that Gu Yanlong would be willing to bet with him? If Gu Yanlong wasn't willing, he couldn't force him. But it was different if Gu Yanlong agreed. You said it. You can't go back on your word. Xu Yuan said hurriedly. I never go back on my word. Gu Yanlong looked indifferent. How could he not know what Xu Yuan was thinking? But he chose to believe in this new human cultivator. He felt that Yi Tianyun had a chance to turn the tables. He felt that Yi Tianyun wouldn't be any weaker than anyone else. Alright, let's wait and see. Xu Yuan smiled with satisfaction. How could he not be happy to get another chance to choose? It hadn't been long, and he already thought that he was going to win. Inside, Yi Tianyun didn't know what was going on outside. He continued to absorb the star power around him and transform the energy in his body. As the transformation went faster and faster, he felt that his combat strength was increasing. He didn't feel any problem. His body was like a vast ocean that could hold hundreds of rivers and continuously absorb energy into his body. The others were starting to feel like they couldn't take it anymore. It meant that their bodies were too weak to hold more energy. Most importantly, their control was also weak. Otherwise, they could have quickly converted the energy and easily transformed the energy in their bodies. As time went by, as the second day approached, some cultivators started to fall. They couldn't even hold on the second day and fell, which meant that they were not fated to join the Heavenly Mandate realm. In fact, not to mention the Heavenly Mandate realm, the other divine realms were almost the same. It was difficult to recruit those who didn't reach the standard as official disciples. If the potential was too weak, so what if they were Star Lords? They were worthless. However, Yi Tianyun and Lei Zhengyu easily passed the second day and met the requirements. Xu Xiong and Xu Han didn't have any problems. They also passed the test easily, but they didn't stop. They wanted to reach higher levels. I thought they wouldn't last more than 2 days. I didn't expect them to make it. Xu Yuan shook his head, his eyes still full of disdain. Gu Yanlong didn't say anything and just watched quietly from the side. On the third day, the others soon failed, and several people fell one after another. There were a total of 30 to 40 people who came for the assessment. Now, on the third day, almost 10 of them had fallen. The failure was quite obvious. As for those who had failed earlier, they all silently left after waking up. This was too shameful. He couldn't even last 2 days. How could he still have the face to stay here? He had just arrived at the God realm, and he had already suffered a heavy blow. One had to know that they were gods in the Fanyu. Who would dare to disobey them? However, he couldn't even get the basics and suffered a heavy blow. The third day passed. Yi Tianyun and the rest also persevered without any problems. On the fourth day, many more cultivators collapsed. Yi Tianyun and Lei Zhengyu were still standing strong. At this time, Xu Yuan's expression changed. Few humans could last that long, which gave him a bad feeling. The main thing was that Xu Xiong and the rest looked like they couldn't hold on any longer. Their bodies were trembling, and they couldn't hold any more energy. What's going on? How can they still hold on? Xu Xiong opened his eyes slightly, and when he saw Yi Tianyun and others on the side, he was shocked, especially Yi Tianyun was like an old monk meditating, he didn't feel anything at all. Seeing this, Xu Xiong and the rest could only grit their teeth and continue. They didn't want to lose to the humans. They had to hold on even if they had to die. On the 5th day, Xu Xiong screamed and fainted. This meant that he couldn't hold on any longer and could only collapse. Xu Yuan's expression darkened when he saw this. He cursed that guy in his heart for being so useless. He couldn't even hold on for 5 days. There's one more. Xu Yuan didn't give up. After all, they were betting on who could last the longest. It didn't matter if someone collapsed. They were competing on who could last the longest anyway. He prayed that Xu Han wouldn't lose so quickly. He had to win no matter what, or he wouldn't have another precious chance. The selection was only available once every 10 years. 10 years wasn't a long time, but no one wanted to work for 10 years for nothing. Wasn't this the very reason why they had put in so much effort and dedication? Gu Yanlong looked at Yi Tianyun and Lei Zhengyu, especially at Yi Tianyun. He felt that Yi Tianyun would definitely be able to hold on. At least he seemed to be more stable than Xu Han and the rest, and he might be able to get a better result. Soon, on the 6th day, Xu Han's body trembled and he fainted to the side. This time, both Xu Han and Xu Xiong failed. On the other hand, Yi Tianyun and Lei Zhengyu could still hold on, far surpassing Xu Han and Xu Xiong. Captain Xu Yuan, I'm sorry. You've lost this bet. Gu Yanlong's lips curled into a smile. He didn't expect that he would win completely, and in such a thorough manner. He crushed the two of them in all aspects. They were not on the same level at all. Good, good, good. Xu Yuan glared at the two who had fainted in the distance. He took out a token and threw it to Gu Yanlong. He said coldly, "Here you go." After that, he didn't bother to pay attention to his people. He turned around and left, not even bothering to look at them. Not only did he lose a chance, but he also lost face. How could he be happy about that? At the same time, he glanced at Yi Tianyun and Lei Zhengyu, planning to remember their faces. If he met them again in the future, he would definitely make things difficult for them. Gu Yanlong looked at his back as he left, then turned his attention back to Yi Tianyun and the rest. He wanted to see how long they could hold on. Finally, after the 6th day, Lei Zhengyu's body trembled and he fainted to the side. On the 6th day, he finally passed out. 6 days. Gu Yanlong's eyes lit up. It was a good result to be able to hold on for 6 days. After the 6th day, most people had fainted. Less than 5 people were left out of the 30 or 40 people. This meant that Lei Zhengyu had made it into the top 10, which was a shocking result. Who said that humans were inferior to other races? This was proof that the human race still had a lot of potential to be unearthed. When there were less than 5 people left, the situation was different. As long as they could hold on for one more day, the effect would be more and more different. Yi Tianyun opened his eyes slightly and looked around. Before he knew it, there were only 3 people left beside him. Chapter 893. There are only 4 people left in the field, including Yi Tianyun. It was only the 6th day and there were only so many people left. It was undeniable that it was extremely difficult to break the record. Only then did everyone realize how difficult it was to break the record. Those cultivators who woke up shook their heads. They all thought that they could hold on for a long time, only to realize that the pain was unbearable. Although they knew that the longer they held on, the better the effect would be, the terrifying power was not something they could endure even if they wanted to. On the 7th day, Lei Zhengyu woke up and looked at Yi Tianyun excitedly. Amazing, it's already the 7th day and there are only 3 people left. Although he could not hold on for that long, he was still very excited to see Yi Tianyun hold on for so long. The main thing was that he had surpassed most of the people. How could he not be excited? I don't know who said that he would faint soon, but now, let alone Brother Yi, even I can surpass all of you. Lei Zhengyu turned his head and looked at Shu Han and Shu Xiong, who did not look too good. Both of them were meditating and adjusting their internal conditions. When they saw that Yi Tianyun could still hold on, they felt that it was incredible. Was this still the human they knew? So what if you can hold on for a long time? The real strength is still in your fist. Shu Xiong waved his fist and said coldly, when the time comes, fight me if you have what it takes. I want to see if holding on for a long time is enough to prove that you are strong. Let's fight, even if Brother Yi doesn't fight you, I will fight you. Lei Zhengyu's eyes flashed with lightning. He had a rather special thunder attribute physique, which was somewhat inconsistent with his personality. His personality was still relatively gentle and kind, but his attribute was extremely destructive thunder attribute. Such a contrast was not small. Okay, that's what you said. Shu Xiong's eyes turned cold. Even if he lost in this aspect, he wanted to regain his dignity in other areas. I'm a man of my word, let's talk about it after the assessment. Lei Zhengyu looked at Yi Tianyun and said excitedly, who knows, Brother Yi might even break the record. Dream on. Shu Xiong mocked from the side, what a joke. You think you can break the record? Do you think the record can be broken so easily? He can only hold on for one more day at most. If he continues for one more day, he will collapse. It was now the 7th day, and it seemed like most people were on the verge of collapsing. It seemed like they wouldn't be able to hold on much longer. However, Yi Tianyun's condition seemed to be stable. The others thought that he was pretending to be calm, but in reality, he was about to faint. Is that so? Then let's wait and see. Lei Zhengyu had confidence in Yi Tianyun. After all, he looked so calm. Yi Tianyun was indeed calm. He kept absorbing the astral powers around him to modify his body. He felt that there were too many places in his body that needed to be modified. He had already converted his spiritual power into astral power and started to modify the major meridians in his body. As the violent astral power surged into his body, his meridians began to expand, but the speed of expansion was rather slow. However, to him, it was good enough to expand his meridians. Based on his physical fitness, there was no way for him to expand his meridians. He was already strong to begin with, and it would be good if he could expand his meridians bit by bit. Then, he realized that there was already a different scene in his energy center. It was a universe that was gradually forming, and a planet was forming in it, revolving in his body. This is a planet. Could it be that when the astral power condenses to a certain amount, it can condense into a planet? Yi Tianyun felt that this might be the way astral power explained it. Gradually, he could condense a galaxy in his body. As the astral power continued to surge into his body, the planet in his body began to form rapidly. Soon, it appeared on the ground and life began to grow. However, the life was limited to plants. There wouldn't be any animals or humanoid life forms. It was just simple flowers and trees. This was a rather magical change. Didn't this mean that a planet with life had appeared in his body, and he could transfer life into it in the future? This was not impossible, but he had to try it out later. While his body was undergoing changes, the outside world was in a state of shock. It was already the 8th day. In the entire assessment venue, only Yi Tianyun was left. The others had all collapsed. When one of the cultivators woke up, her beautiful eyes flickered as she looked at him. Then, she sat beside him and stabilized the condition of her body. This female cultivator was the second to collapse. She had almost lasted for 8 days, and it was already quite impressive that she could last for 7 days. However, she looked at Yi Tianyun with some reluctance. She didn't expect that there would be someone who could last longer than her. Ha ha ha, I told you that Brother Yi could last longer. He could only last for one more day. Now, He has exceeded the time limit. What do you guys say? Lei Zhengyu's mouth was quite vicious, and he immediately started to retaliate. Xu Xiong and the others didn't look good. They didn't expect Yi Tianyun to be able to last for so long. It was really beyond their imagination. Gu Yanlong, who was on the side, was smiling. Even if they didn't break the record, it was already beyond his expectations that two people could last for 7 days. After recruiting them, he would definitely get a lot of rewards. Although lasting longer had nothing to do with him, he would definitely be rewarded if he could recruit good new people. Not bad, not bad. I told you this kid is not simple. Gu Yanlong was very satisfied. If Xu Yuan was next to him, his face would definitely be extremely ugly. Lasting for 7 days was also a very good result in the entire Heavenly Mandate realm. At least, his future achievements would be much better than his. He could only last for 5 days back then, which was 2 days less than Yi Tianyun. It was only 2 days, but the difference in treatment was like the clouds and mud. That was because if one could last for more than 7 days, he could directly become a core disciple, and he would be the focus of training. Yi Tianyun didn't pay attention to the outside world and continued to persist. Soon, the days passed. The 8th day. The 9th day. The 10th day. Very soon, he reached the 10th day. As long as he could last for this day, his number of days would be the same as the record holder. Xu Xiong and the others were going crazy with jealousy. They all thought that they would faint on the 8th day, but they didn't expect that they could really last until the 10th day. It was simply incredible. If he could last until the 10th day, wouldn't he have a chance to become one of the heirs? Even if he couldn't become the heirs, his status was far beyond what they could compare with, and it made their hearts explode with jealousy. Why didn't such a good thing happen to them? Chapter 894. Gu Yanlong was about to go crazy with joy. He was ready to reach that record. If there was really a record holder, he would definitely get more benefits. If he broke the record, it was really unimaginable. This time, everyone was silent, quietly watching Yi Tianyun meditating over there. Their eyes were extremely complicated. They really could not imagine that the human clan would be above them. Their bloodlines were so different, and the bloodline of the human clan was simply the garbage of the garbage, belonging to the most inconspicuous kind. In addition to having more people, there were not too many advantages. However, if they really compared the number of people, the human clan was not the most, but in terms of bloodline, it was indeed one of the low-level bloodlines. Why was there still a lot of bloodlines, which were indeed classified as low-level bloodlines? The lower the bloodline, the more obvious it was with the improvement of cultivation. Or in other words, the difference appeared when they were young. Whether it was talent or growth, there was a huge difference. For example, with the cultivation of the evil spirit clan at the Saint King stage, it was possible to fight with the human clan at the Divine King stage. That was the difference. Now it was almost the 10th day, which was incredible. The key point was that he seemed to be able to continue. At least it seemed that Yi Tianyun was in a stable condition, his breath was not chaotic, and he was quite stable when he meditated there. Will he really reach the 10th day? They all looked at each other and felt that it was a little unreal. If so, he would be the second existence to create a record of 10 days. If it was close, it would not be a problem, but if it was the same, they could not believe it. But the truth was so cruel to them. The 10th day was easily reached, and Yi Tianyun became the second existence to reach 10 days in the Heavenly Mandate Divine Realm. He really reached it. They were stunned, and they all thought that at the last moment, Yi Tianyun would faint. However, he did not faint, and he just held on and entered the 10th day. The smile on the corner of Gu Yanlong's mouth was even more brilliant. 10 days, a whole 10 days. Just like that, Yi Tianyun became the second disciple to reach 10 days, which meant that his future was promising, and he would soon enter the key training targets. I said that Brother Yi would definitely reach 10 days. Did you see that? he could only last for 2 days. Now, he has twice as much time as you. Lei Zhengyu jumped up in joy, but when he looked at Xu Xiong's side, their expressions became even uglier. They were roaring in their hearts. How did Yi Tianyun manage to persevere till the 10th day? It was a result that they could never achieve. This time, they had been slapped in the face heavily. They all remained silent, unable to refute a single word. Winner takes all. They were the losers, and they had lost completely. What happened next made them collapse. They thought that Yi Tianyun would be done very soon. After all, this was the highest record. No one could surpass this record. However, reality slapped them hard in the face. Very soon, Yi Tianyun entered the 11th day, setting a new record. Not only did he enter the 11th day, he quickly entered the 12th day, then the 13th day. If they hadn't seen Yi Tianyun's endless energy flowing into his body, they would have thought that Yi Tianyun was already dead. Otherwise, how could he have held on for so long? This has been the 13th day. Is he a freak? Or does he have the bloodline of some other high-level race? Otherwise, how could he have held on for so long? Yes. He can't be a human. Otherwise, how could he have held on for so long? None of them believed that he had the bloodline of a human. If he did, how could he have held on for so long? However, Yi Tianyun did indeed have the bloodline of a human. Even the bloodline of the King of the Heavens was also a human. Saying that he had the bloodline of the King of the Heavens was just because he had the talent of a powerhouse in it. When they came here, they realized that the so-called bloodline of the King of the Heavens was just a common thing. Moreover, they weren't called King of the Heavens here, but a Star Lord. They were considered ordinary existences in the deity domain. It was worth a lot of money in the ordinary realm, but it was worthless here. He does have the bloodline of a human. Gu Yanlong, who was at the side, confirmed and said, although I can feel that his aura is mixed with other powers, it is an indisputable fact that he has the bloodline of a human. Don't find other reasons to console yourself for your failure. He is a human. Don't find excuses for yourself. Gu Yanlong gave them a hard blow, leaving them speechless. The human race, which they had belittled to the point of being worthless, was now stepping on their heads and creating a new record. Finally, on the 14th day, Yi Tianyun slowly opened his eyes. The astral power in his body had been completely converted. There was basically no other place for it to be converted. The planet in his body was full of vitality. It was like a world with towering trees and all kinds of plants. I can't reform myself anymore if I continue to absorb it. Yi Tianyun woke up not because he couldn't take it, but because the transformation in his body had been completed. If he continued to absorb astral power, it would be the same as cultivating outside. He would simply absorb astral power from the outside to strengthen himself. However, the astral power that Yi Tianyun absorbed was converted into experience points, unlike other cultivators who used it to strengthen themselves bit by bit. To put it bluntly, he had completed the transformation and hadn't fainted. This made him feel strange. He thought that he could persist for a long time. Who knew that after the transformation was completed, there was nothing left to reform? Could it be that if I complete the transformation in the divine territory for the first time, it would pave the way for the future? Yi Tianyun felt like he was being cheated. If he persisted for a long time, he would be able to completely transform his body in advance and adapt to the divine territory faster. It didn't mean that he could continue to transform his body if he persisted for a few months. Wouldn't he be invincible? That wasn't the answer at all. It was a very simple transformation of his body. If he had fainted a few days ago, he would need to slowly adapt and spend more time to reach the standard of complete transformation. However, this was like a race against time. He would have more time than others. Immediately, Yi Tianyun stood up gloomily and walked out. At this moment, he realized that the cultivators around him were staring at him with their mouths agape, including Gu Yanlong. Not only did he persist for 14 days, he could even walk out casually as though he was walking into his own house. This was the first time Gu Yanlong had seen someone who could persist to this extent and walk out casually. Why didn't you faint? Shu Xiong was dumbfounded. Chapter 895. No one expected Yi Tianyun to be able to walk out of the array without fainting. They all agreed that either they could not hold on and fainted, or they could continue to hold on. There was no third scenario. Yi Tianyun showed a third situation, that is, he walked out of the great array, and it looked very easy. Brother Yi, are you alright? Lei Zhengyu came over and asked in surprise. What could happen to me? Yi Tianyun looked at him from head to toe, smiled and said, speaking of which, you persevered for 6 days, not bad. Although he had been meditating to absorb astral power, it did not mean that he did not pay attention to the situation around him. He was aware of the situation outside and any movement was clear to him. As for what the people outside were saying, he could not be bothered to pay attention to it, he just covered the range of the array with his spiritual sense. The main thing was that he wanted to know the situation around him and see his opponent's situation. He could not be bothered with the discussions outside. It would be better to use this effort on devouring energy. Brother Yi, you are flattering me. You broke the record, 14 days, you even exceeded the previous record of 4 days. Lei Zhengyu was overjoyed. You don't know, the way those guys look at you has changed, I find it funny just thinking about it. Brother Yi, you really brought glory to the human race. Is that so? Yi Tianyun looked up at Shu Xiong and said with a faint smile, previously, you said that the two of us would be finished in less than 2 days, now you tell me how many days you have persevered. He had always liked to slap people's faces, no matter how they mocked him before, now he would fight back. Persevered for a long time does not mean that you are strong, if you have the ability, fight me. Shu Xiong stood up, looked at Yi Tianyun with eyes full of fanaticism. If he could defeat Yi Tianyun in 14 days, then even if he persevered for 14 days, he would still be a pile of shit in front of him. Yi Tianyun looked at Gu Yanlong and inquired, Lord Gu, can we have a duel here? Logically speaking, duels were not allowed here. Gu Yanlong smiled and said, no problem. I allow you to duel here, but don't go overboard. Don't kill each other. You are all new disciples of the heavenly mandate divine realm, and you are already fellow disciples. You should not kill each other. That's not a problem. I'll go easy on you. Yi Tianyun smiled. Show mercy. You make it sound nice, but I want to see how you will show mercy to me. Shu Xiong was enraged, and so was Shu Han. They looked at Yi Tianyun in a different light. They were shocked before, but now they all wanted to step on Yi Tianyun. This was an existence that had persisted for 14 days. If they were to defeat it, wouldn't the glory be theirs? Rumor had it that the longer one persisted, the stronger one's power would be. If they were to defeat someone who persisted for about 3 or 4 days, it would be telling others that persisting for 14 days was useless. Immediately, the cultivators around them made space for them to duel. Gu Yanlong allowed them to do whatever they wanted because he was giving face to Yi Tianyun. He also wanted to see how strong Yi Tianyun was. With his strength, he could prevent many things from happening, and everything would be under his control. Make your move, lest you say that I didn't give you a chance to fight when I defeat you. I should say that, lest others say that I didn't give you a chance, human. At this time, Shu Xiong became arrogant again, thinking that Yi Tianyun was a piece of trash that he could easily defeat. Is that so? Thank you for giving me a chance. Yi Tianyun looked at him and smiled gently. Can I make my move now? Yes, boom. Yi Tianyun stepped on the ground and instantly disappeared. His speed was so fast that even Gu Yanlong couldn't see him clearly. Bang! The next moment, Yi Tianyun appeared in front of Shu Xiong and kicked him, sending Shu Xiong flying with a kick. Ah! Along with a scream, Shu Xiong was sent flying and finally slammed against the wall. The tree branches on his body were shattered. Even though he had thick tree bark on his body, the kick still left a deep dent on his body. It looked like the kick almost pierced through his body. Then, Shu Xiong fell from the wall and hit the ground, twitching non-stop. Green blood kept spurting out of his mouth, and he passed out. Not bad, I've improved a lot. I feel much stronger than when I first came in. Yi Tianyun looked inside his body, and the appraisal eye quickly revealed the overall situation. After energy conversion, my overall strength has increased by 3 times. My body has been strengthened by 2 times, and my meridians have been strengthened by 3 times. Energy has been converted into brand new star power, and the efficiency of anything I use has increased by 3 times. Overall combat power is 6,300 star power. 6,300 star power, when converted to his previous combat power, was already equivalent to 630 billion combat power. This was still under normal circumstances. If he erupted, how terrifying would he be? Looking at the cultivation of the other Starry Lords, for example, Shu Xiong was a level 5 Starry Lord, but his overall combat power was only 2,300 star power. Another example was a level 8 Starry Lord who was the same cultivation as him, but he only had 3,200 star power. He had 3,000 more star power than them, and this difference was terrifying. Even peak Starry Lords weren't as strong as him. Only that Gu Yanlong was much stronger than him. He was just a second refinement Earth Monarch, and he already had 20,000 star power. The difference was too big. Indeed, after crossing a major realm, the effect was usually a crushing one. Unless one was extremely heaven-defying, it was impossible to fight someone who was a few levels higher. It was already good enough to escape, but it was impossible to defeat the other party. I didn't expect that after converting star power, there would be such a shocking change. Yi Tianyun was shocked. Previously, when he updated the system, he realized that his star power was only slightly more than 3,800, close to 4,000 star power. To put it bluntly, he was not much stronger than that guy. They had powerful bloodlines, and it was easy to pull them back. Now, after his transformation, he had an additional 3,000 star power. This was just the data on the surface, and the various powers could only be felt when they erupted. The data given by the appraisal eye was only superficial, and it wouldn't be too deep. It could be said that it was only a reference type, but who could be sure when it erupted? Things like taking medicine, treasures, and exploding bloodlines were hard to say. Chapter 896. Shu Xiong exploded with one kick. If Gu Yanlong had not said not to kill, Shu Xiong would have become a pile of useless firewood, ready to be used as fuel. Everyone was flabbergasted. Even if Shu Xiong's cultivation was not top-notch, he was at least a 5th-layer star venerate. Yet, he exploded with one kick. Of course, Shu Xiong had been careless, but it was too easy for him to be killed in an instant. Brother Yi, good job. Lei Zhengyu was very excited. He almost wanted to rush over and hug Yi Tianyun. This was very satisfying. He wanted to kill these arrogant bastards. Gu Yanlong's eyes flashed. He had not expected to be dealt with so easily. That speed was too shocking. Even he felt that it was too fast. Not bad, not bad. I was right about you. Gu Yanlong admired Yi Tianyun. As for that Shu Xiong, he could not be bothered with him. In any case, it was fine as long as Shu Xiong was not killed. As for him being crippled, that had nothing to do with him. You were so heavy-handed. After Shu Han reacted, he quickly ran to Shu Xiong's side and picked him up. After checking, he found that many of Shu Xiong's bones were broken. He was basically half-crippled. Shu Han glared at Yi Tianyun angrily. This is just a sparring session. How could you be so heavy-handed? Heavy-handed? How could I have known that he would be so weak, reduced to such a state with one kick? Furthermore, he was the one who said to let me attack first, so I did as I pleased, Tianyun said indifferently. Who knew that your tree race is so weak? These words enraged Shu Han. He quickly shouted at Gu Yanlong, Lord Gu, he was heavy-handed on purpose, trying to kill Shu Xiong. As long as he is not dead, it is not a violation of the rules. Fists and kicks have no eyes. No one can control them, Gu Yanlong replied indifferently. This was not favoring Tianyun. It was the same for fights outside. Fists and kicks had no eyes, and serious injuries were common. As long as one was not dead, it was not a violation of the rules. This. Shu Han looked at his unconscious companion, not knowing what to say. Since you don't like my methods, do you want to avenge your companions? Didn't you say that we humans are trash? Why don't you compete with me and see who's the real trash? Tianyun looked at Shu Han and motioned for him to come forward and compete with him. He was still not stingy in slapping his face. It was time to repay the debt from before. He was not a good person. Since her mouth was cheap, she had to obediently move her face forward and let him slap her. So be it. Shu Han stood up angrily. He felt that Shu Xiong had been too careless. Otherwise, he would not have been defeated so quickly. After he stood up, he quickly took out a low-grade divine tool and said to Tianyun coldly, I will let you know who you are, and what kind of position you are standing in. Are you done? Tianyun said calmly, can we start now? Come. Shu Han said angrily, since you're trash, I will attack first, just like Shu Xiong, just in case I don't give you a chance. As he spoke, thick armor surged from Shu Han's body. Tree vines emerged from all over his body and wrapped him up tightly. A strong life force continuously surged out from their bodies. This was the special effect of their bloodline, which was a super strong healing ability and a very strong defense. Just their armor alone was comparable to a low-grade divine artifact. They indeed had the capital to be arrogant. Swoosh! Tianyun still did not hold back. Since he was asked to attack first, he would attack first. Shu Han only saw a flash before his eyes. The next moment, he felt as if his chest was about to be shattered. His entire body flew backward and hit the wall. He vomited blood and fainted. Before he fainted, he felt as if all the bones in his chest were broken. The armor on the surface was like a piece of paper that was broken with one kick. Shu Han and Shu Xiong were both lying on the ground, unable to move. They had both fainted and could not move even if they wanted to. Everyone looked at the two of them, dumbfounded. If Shu Xiong was not prepared and was killed instantly due to carelessness, it would be reasonable. Now that Shu Han was fully prepared and even had armor on his body, he was still easily killed. This could only mean one thing, Tianyun was much stronger than them. Anyone else who is dissatisfied with the human race, come forward. Tianyun glanced around coldly, wanting to see who was looking down on them. You think you are strong after defeating 2 tree men? At this time, the rock giant walked out. His body was covered in hard rocks, which looked much harder than the tree men. Dong dong dong, sounds of footsteps could be heard, and the ground was shaking from his footsteps. This person was called Yen Feng, a member of the rock tribe. Tianyun looked him up and down. He had seen this person before. To be able to last until the 6th day, he was considered quite good. The greatest advantages of the rock tribe bloodline were his strength and defense. I don't think so. I just want them to keep their mouths shut. Tianyun looked at him indifferently and said, what about you? What do you want to say? I don't want to say anything. I just want to see what you are capable of. Yen Feng simply wants to challenge Tianyun, he wants to trample on him before Tianyun leaves, he wants to show off his power. The others were not intimidated by Tianyun. Their eyes were filled with fighting spirit. Their cultivation was much stronger than Shu Han's. For example, Yen Feng was a 9th stage Star Lord, which was a relatively high cultivation. Oh, I'm not interested. Tianyun could not be bothered with him. Are you humans all so timid and afraid of trouble? You only know how to bully the weak and fear the strong. Yan Feng mocked. Bully the weak and fear the strong. Yi Tianyun turned his head and smiled at him. It seems that all of you want to step on me and use me as a stepping stone to climb higher. Fine, I will fulfill your wish. If you want to lie on the bed for a few years, I don't mind. Brat, it seems that you are really arrogant. Do you think you are invincible just because you broke the armor of the two tree men? Yan Feng patted his chest and sneered, if you can break this armor of mine, I'll consider it my loss. Yi Tianyun looked him up and down. He had to admit that the strength of the rock tribe was defense. With the appraisal eye, the armor on his body was comparable to a medial-grade divine artifact. If he used it fully, it would probably be as hard as a superior-grade divine artifact. So, it's a shield. Are you ready? Yi Tianyun asked indifferently. I've been ready for a long time. Don't use too much force. Be careful, or you might cripple your feet, boom. Before Yan Feng finished speaking, his huge body was kicked away. The stone on his chest was smashed into pieces. His huge body was almost turned into a pile of rubble. Chapter 897. Just like that, Yan Feng exploded with one kick. His outcome was no different from Shu Han and the others. In fact, it was even more severe. Broken rocks littered the ground, looking very tragic. Everyone was dumbfounded. An 8th-layer star venerate could still be killed in an instant. This was too incredible. Furthermore, it was such a tough rock race, yet he could still be killed in an instant. This was unbelievable. This strength is too strong. That's the rock race. That's right. I saw a fight earlier. A cultivator kept using his weapon to hack at the rock race, but he did not even leave a mark. His toughness is simply too scary. In the same cultivation realm, he is basically invincible. However, no matter how invincible he is, he still exploded with one kick. Could he have already broken through to the Earth Monarch level? Impossible. If he was an Earth Monarch, we would have sensed it long ago. At most, he would be a 6th-layer star venerate. He could not possibly be an Earth Monarch. One by one, they wanted to continue to challenge Yi Tianyun, but they immediately felt as if a bucket of cold water was poured on them, and their hearts froze. Who would dare to challenge Yi Tianyun now? Whoever dared to challenge him would end up like the other three, lying on the ground obediently. They were not dead, but they were severely injured and could not even get up. It looked like they would not be able to get out of bed easily without recuperating for a few years. Yi Tianyun never showed mercy. If not for the fact that he could not kill, they would have become 3 corpses long ago. Since he could not kill them, he could only use the most violent force to break their bones and meridians. It was that simple. Is there anyone else who wants to challenge me? Yi Tianyun looked at the crowd coldly. Under his cold gaze, some cultivators could not help but take a step back, not daring to get close to him. Just his aura alone frightened them. He was like an unsheathed divine sword, showing off its sharpness. Soon after, all of them fell silent. One of the women who was meditating at the side raised her head and glanced over, but didn't say anything. She had lasted the longest, which proved that her strength was extraordinary. However, she did not intend to challenge Yi Tianyun. She only sized him up curiously. Brother Yi, you are amazing. Lei Zhengyu came over excitedly and patted his shoulder. The rock tribe is so powerful, but they were still destroyed by your kick. If it were me, I wouldn't be able to kick them at all. Lei Zhengyu's strength was not bad, but his cultivation was still a far cry from Yan Feng's. Gu Yanlong walked over, looked at them, and said, if no one wants to continue fighting, then I now announce that all of you have officially become disciples of the heavenly mandate divine realm. Those who persist for more than 7 days will directly become core disciples. Those who persisted for more than 7 days would become core disciples. Each and every one of them looked at Yi Tianyun and the other mysterious girl with envy. Even if they did not know the benefits of becoming a core disciple, they could imagine that it was definitely much better than becoming an official disciple. As for those who persist for more than 5 days, they will be able to become inner palace disciples. Their futures will also be limitless. Gu Yanlong smiled at them. The harvest this time was truly not small. After that, Gu Yanlong led them through a long walkway and arrived at another hall. However, the hall outside was different. There were many cultivators coming and going here, and they were all accepting tasks at the side. This was actually a task hall. If one wanted to earn contribution points, they had to complete tasks here. This was basically something that everyone had. If they did not do this, how could they strengthen their forces? They did not want to raise a group of freeloaders. If they did not do this, they would run out of resources sooner or later. Official disciples, go over there to get your token. Inner palace disciples who persist for more than 5 days, come over here to get your token. Core disciples, come over here to get your token. Gu Yanlong led them to get their tokens. Each of them received their corresponding token, which had their names engraved on it. After getting his token, Yi Tianyun saw that his token was made of a special material, and it was a very precious material. This token was a large storage space. There was an extremely large space inside, and it could hold many things. The key was that when he got it, he could immediately sense the situation of the surrounding tokens. He could roughly feel how far away they were. Your token has the ability to identify your own people. Whether it is for rescue or doing tasks together, you can do it through this token, Gu Yanlong said in a deep voice. This is your identification. If you lose your token, no matter what level you are, you will be kicked out of the heavenly mandate divine realm. The token is equivalent to your life. If you lose it, you will lose your life. Of course, if someone deliberately disappears and is found, they will be executed directly by capital punishment. Everyone's expression changed. If they lost their token, wouldn't they be kicked out? Wasn't this condition a bit too strict? Yi Tianyun did not think there was anything too strict about it. Unless they were dead, they would not lose their token. If they lost it like this, they would indeed be too ashamed to continue staying in this force. Then you two come with me. The others will take you to the corresponding places. Gu Yanlong gestured for Yi Tianyun and the mysterious woman to follow him. Brother Yi, congratulations on becoming a core disciple. But if you leave like this, I don't know when we will meet again. Lei Zhengyu stopped Yi Tianyun. Although they had just met not long ago, they were all humans. They were all discriminated against here. It would be best if they could stay in the same place. However, core disciples and inner palace disciples definitely wouldn't stay in the same place. We will, but no matter what, we must not forget the dignity of humans. Yi Tianyun smiled at him. Yes, the dignity of the human race. Lei Zhengyu patted his chest. No matter what, he could not lose his dignity. After saying that, they separated, and Gu Yanlong led them out of the hall. Walking out of the hall, the outside world was filled with many bustling buildings. There were many cultivators coming and going in the distance, but their cultivation was not high. Most of them were at the Spirit King stage, which meant that they were all outer disciples, and they were all working hard. When they walked forward, Gu Yanlong turned to look at the mysterious woman and said happily, Yurong, your result this time is not bad. Your father will be very happy. Not bad, but I did not reach the 10 days record, and I am not the first. Gu Yurong said indifferently. She did not show any surprise, instead, she looked a little disappointed. At least you have reached the core disciple level. Gu Yanlong smiled. It's all thanks to your guidance, uncle. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to reach the standard. Gu Yurong's eyes were filled with gratitude. Uncle? Chapter 898. Yi Tianyun looked up and down at the two of them, and when he looked carefully, he found that they really have a little relationship. For example, Gu Yanlong had the bloodline of the dragon clan. As for this mysterious woman, she also had the bloodline of the dragon clan. However, he did not expect her to be from the outside. He thought she would be born in the heavenly mandate divine realm, and the result would be better. It could only mean that they were of the same origin. Even if Gu Yanlong was the captain here, he did not have the power to move his clansmen here. The star power in the divine realm was very rich, and it was much better to cultivate here than in the outside world of Fanyu. The outside world absorbed spiritual power, while here absorbed star power. The difference was obviously different. No, these are all your own efforts. I just gave you a little guidance. Compared to me in the past, you have better results. If you continue to work hard, you will have a chance to become an elder in the future. Gu Yanlong was very satisfied with his niece. I will work harder. Gu Yurong nodded heavily, her eyes full of determination. Gu Yanlong turned to look at Yi Tianyun and said, I believe you can see that this is my niece, Gu Yurong. You two should get to know each other. From now on, you will be in the same sect. Take care of each other. Hello, I am Gu Yurong. Take care of me in the future. Gu Yurong bowed and nodded politely. Well, my name is Yi Tianyun. Take care of me in the future. Yi Tianyun smiled politely. At least they did not look down on humans like those other races. After a simple introduction, Gu Yanlong brought them to the teleportation array outside the main hall. He took them up and said, when you go to the main hall where the core disciples are, you must pay attention to everything. There are many crouching tigers and hidden dragons inside. Especially Yi Tianyun. I have to say that this time you have made a record, and you will indeed be valued. But remember, do not be too complacent. Your level is very good, and your future is limitless. But as you saw just now, many people want to step on you. This record of yours is your strength, but it's also your trouble. Keep a low profile when you get there. It will be of great benefit to you. Gu Yanlong reminded him earnestly like an elder. Lord Gu, I will. However, Lord Gu, it seems that you don't really dislike humans? Yi Tianyun was a little curious about this. After all, everyone was full of discrimination towards him just now. It's a long story. In short, I don't hate the human race. I have friends among the human race. But they aren't here for the time being. I don't know where they went. Gu Yanlong shook his head, a look of nostalgia in his eyes. Back then, we took the examination together and became disciples here. Later on, they did leave this place and chose to travel further away. Let's not talk about this. I almost forgot that this is a gift for you too. Gu Yanlong took out 2 tokens and handed them to the 2 of them. He explained, these are the selection tokens. After you report to the core hall, you can go to the selection hall and choose the treasure you like. It's a greeting gift. This token was won by Gu Yanlong from the bet with Tri Yuan. The other token was a greeting gift for his niece. Selection hall. Gu Yurong was very excited. She said, thank you, uncle. Yi Tianyun was not familiar with it. Seeing Gu Yurong's excitement, he knew that it was not simple. Thank you, Lord Gu. Yi Tianyun also expressed his gratitude. You don't need to thank me. You fought for it yourself. After all, you won it from the bet with Tri Yuan. You won it from the bet, so you fought for it yourself. Gu Yanlong said with a smile. No matter what, Lord Gu is taking care of me by giving me the selection token. Yi Tianyun said with a smile. Alright, let's not talk too much. I can get a lot of benefits from recruiting a record-breaking existence like you. As a matter of fact, I also got some benefits from you. You don't need to thank me. Gu Yanlong reached out and patted him on the shoulder. He smiled faintly and said, you two go ahead. I'll see you off here. I can't go inside. They nodded. When they were about to leave, Gu Yanlong thought of something. He turned to them and added, by the way, be careful when you go to the selection hall. It's a rare opportunity. If you can, improve yourselves first. You need luck and opportunities there. Of course, the most important thing is your own strength. After that, he turned around and left, not wanting to stay any longer. His responsibility was to manage the passage there. He couldn't interfere with the situation here, so he didn't need to go in. After Gu Yanlong left, Gu Yurong didn't say anything to Yi Tianyun. She just walked in with a straight face. It seemed that she had nothing to talk to him about. They were not familiar with each other. Gu Yanlong was just being polite when he said that he would take care of her. As for what Gu Yurong would do, it was her own business. At least for now, it seemed that Gu Yurong wasn't so enthusiastic. Yi Tianyun didn't say much to her. He didn't want to be embarrassed and have nothing to talk about. After they walked out of the teleportation matrix, they walked forward. Before they reached the core hall, they could see a huge palace in front of them. It was not so much a palace, but a huge city, a city that stretched as far as the eye could see. This place doesn't seem to belong to the same place anymore, does it? Yi Tianyun looked around and felt that this place was completely different. They were not on the same planet. It seems that you don't know much about the heavenly mandate divine realm. Gu Yurong glanced at him and said while walking forward, there are countless planets in the heavenly mandate divine realm, and there is only one city on each planet. The place we were at before was called the Guardian Star, and now we are at the Nuclear Star. It is a place for core disciples to live. Of course, there are many other planets, which are equivalent to cities. You can go to them through the teleportation matrix or the spirit ship. Gu Yurong didn't seem to be close to him, but she was still very serious when she answered. As expected of the divine realm, this is really a big deal, one planet and one city. He had just searched around with his spiritual consciousness and found that it was many times larger than the mortal realm. There was only one city on such a big planet. This was simply too extravagant. Wouldn't the area that each person lived in be terrifyingly large? The huge city in front of him was the best proof. Chapter 899. Identity Token. As soon as Yi Tianyun and Gu Yurong walked over, the guard immediately intercepted them. He stared at them fiercely, and an intimidating aura immediately pressed down. This was a first refinement Earth Lord, and he was guarding the door here. Although he was a first refinement Earth Lord, Yi Tianyun knew that these cultivators had basically reached their limit. It was quite difficult for them to move forward. They only served as guards to gain some contribution points so that they could exchange for other things to improve their cultivation. Yi Tianyun and Gu Yurong both took out the core disciple token. The guard took it and checked it. When he saw the token in Yi Tianyun's hand, he was immediately dumbfounded. You lasted for 14 days? The guard looked at the information on the token in disbelief. Not to mention the guard, even the person who made the token for Yi Tianyun wondered if he had seen it wrong. How could there be someone who lasted for 14 days? The highest record was only 10 days. Now, he had exceeded the highest record by 4 days. How could he not be shocked? In the end, Gu Yanlong provided evidence. Only then did the guard believe Gu Yanlong's words. Otherwise, he really would not believe it. That evidence was the recording disc, which could completely record the scene. There was basically no way to fake it. Every time, Gu Yanlong had to record it and provide it when making the token. If there was a particularly outstanding one, he had to submit it to the elder level. Otherwise, who would be willing to believe Gu Yanlong's words? Yes, what's the problem? This was not the first time Yi Tianyun had seen such an expression. Was it so shocking? So many cultivators, and only one exceeded 10 days. However, Gu Yanlong's target was the heavenly mandate realm. As for whether there were other divine realms that exceeded the other number, it was another matter. At least in the heavenly mandate realm, only Yi Tianyun had exceeded 10 days. No problem. Please come in. The guard's attitude was completely different. His eyes were full of admiration, which was a great change from before. This made Tianyun shake his head. If he had kept a low profile, would he have been able to enjoy such treatment? Beside her, Gu Yurong sighed deeply. How she wished that she was the one to receive such treatment. If she could get such treatment, she would be able to bring her family over. Unfortunately, it wasn't her. After the two of them entered, they had only taken a few steps when someone immediately rushed out from inside. The first to come out were two old men. Their hair was messy, but their eyes were filled with golden light. They looked at Tianyun from head to toe as if they were looking at a treasure. It's unbelievable that this human brat can persist for 14 days. Yeah, it's unbelievable. Very few people can achieve such a result in 14 days. I didn't expect one to appear in our heavenly mandate divine realm. Hee, let me take this kid as my disciple. No, old man you, let me take him as my disciple. Bah! Become my disciple. My level is higher than yours. Bullshit, you think your level is higher than mine? Do you want to compare who's better now? The two of them had just come out and immediately began to quarrel. When the disciples who were passing by heard the content of the quarrel, they were all dumbfounded. What's going on? Persisting for 14 days? What thing lasted for 14 days? Could it be that the baptism of the divine realm lasted for 14 days? How is this possible? The record has always been 10 days. How could it have lasted for 14 days? But the two elders said so. It can't be false. God, a monster that lasted for 14 days, and it's a human? A human? How is this possible? The worst race can actually last for 14 days. For a moment, the sound of discussion exploded. Some of it was transmitted to the core hall, letting them know that a monster had come. But after everyone heard it, they felt that it was unbelievable. How could there be such a monster in the human race? Logically speaking, it was impossible. But why would the two elders lie? Especially when they were fighting to become their disciples. This was a situation that had never been seen before. Unless one made it into the top 10 of the core hall, one would not be qualified to be accepted as a disciple by the two elders. Moreover, it was just a chance to be in the top 10 or top 3, but it was not absolute. Now that they had just arrived at the core hall, they were already fighting so hard. One by one, they came out to take a look. They wanted to see what kind of god could actually persist for so long. In just a moment, the entrance of the core hall was filled with people. There were at least a few hundred people here. These were all people who had persisted for 7 days. None of them were ordinary people. It was just that they didn't expect so many people to persist for 7 days. Tianyun looked at the two old men in front of him and was very surprised. Their cultivation had actually reached the level of the Lord of Heaven. The key was that they were both Lord of Heaven, and they were at the same level, but the combat power they displayed was completely different. Yu Yanglong, Lord of Heaven level 3 cultivation, has a powerful and pure yang energy, can burn all objects. Weakness, restrained by yin and cold objects. Overall combat power, 250,000 star power. Ming Yueqing, Lord of Heaven level 3 cultivation, has a powerful and pure yin and cold energy, can freeze all objects. Weakness, restrained by yin and cold objects. Overall combat power, 220,000 star power. The two were mutually restraining existences, but the key was that there was such a huge difference in combat power, which made him feel very strange. This was a difference of 30,000 star power. If converted, it would be 3 trillion combat power. So there is such a thing. Tianyun saw the detailed content with the appraisal eye, which was specially marked in small words. Yu Yanglong broke through to the 8th refinement Earth Monarch, while Ming Yueqing broke through to the 7th refinement Earth Monarch. Different levels of breakthrough, but the difference is so shocking. Tianyun was a little surprised. It seemed that he had to carefully understand this aspect. There were too many things he was not clear about. Since he came to this divine domain, he had to carefully understand it. Forget it, no more quarreling. Let him choose who his master is that okay? Alright, that's a good idea. Let him choose. The two turned to look at Yi Tianyun, stared at him and asked, say it, who do you want to choose as your master? When the surrounding people saw the situation, they were so jealous that they almost exploded. Why could they choose their own master? They were chosen, and they might not even be chosen. Wasn't the difference a little too big? Chapter 900. The two incomparably powerful heavenly monarchs stared at Yi Tianyun. With their terrifying combat power, they could easily crush Yi Tianyun with just a finger. After his cultivation increased, his combat power was really explosive. 250,000 star power, and that was under normal circumstances. If he were to unleash all his star power, wouldn't he be able to reach 300,000 star power? Just thinking about it is terrifying. He can probably destroy the 3 realms with a flip of his hand, right? When Yi Tianyun was in the 3 realms, he already felt that a divine king could destroy the 3 realms. In fact, it was almost the same. Although he could not destroy the 3 realms with a flip of his hand, he could still destroy it with a little effort. As for breaking through to the level of a Lord of Heaven, he would be an existence that could completely crush the 3 realms with a flip of his hand. Destroying a world with a punch was not a joke. He then looked at the 2 Lord of Heaven and smiled. How about this? Both of you become my masters. Wouldn't that be perfect? The 2 of them were stunned. The others were even more dumbfounded. Some even started scolding him. This kid is too arrogant. He's just breaking a record and he wants to choose 2 masters. That's right. It would be a joke if he angered the 2 masters. Is he sure he can accept 2 masters? What a joke. What an idiot. He's just a human and yet he's so arrogant. I really can't stand him. If the 2 elders weren't here, I would really challenge him. Every single one of them was filled with jealousy and dissatisfaction. The fact that he was a human to begin with was already enough to make them feel dissatisfied. Now, he was even so arrogant and had chosen 2 masters. They were unhappy, but Yi Tianyun would not be satisfied. He had just arrived and definitely needed the 2 masters to guide him. They were the Lord of Heaven. If he had 2 masters, he would have a stronger backing. He was not a fool. There was no need to throw them away and say that he didn't need masters. Even if he would surpass them in the future, he was much weaker than the 2 elders now. With them as his backing, he would definitely be able to do things. The 2 elders looked at him with furrowed brows and said, "Brat, aren't you a bit too greedy? Looks like you don't know about our situation. Our attributes are completely incompatible. Either we cultivate the power of ice with him, or we cultivate the power of fire with me. The 2 are completely incompatible. Being able to cultivate even one of them is already very good. That's right, you can be arrogant if you have some ability, but you're wrong. He is too greedy. How can he cultivate such a Tao heart?" Their impression of Yi Tianyun immediately plummeted. Sometimes, people shouldn't be too greedy. If they were too greedy, problems would easily arise. More haste, less speed. Everything had to be done slowly. The cultivators around them immediately revealed mocking expressions. They were very happy to see such a scene. It was obvious that the 2 masters were unhappy. If he had chosen any of the teachers, he would have offended one of them at most. However, if he had been too greedy now, he would have offended both of them. Ha, are you an idiot? This is going to be fun. I've offended the 2 elders. Sure enough, stupidity depends on the race. That's right. Let's see how he answers. He doesn't please either side. He's really too stupid. They felt that Yi Tianyun was really an idiot. Especially when they heard the 2 elders' words, they laughed so hard that their stomachs hurt. They wished that the 2 elders would give up on Yi Tianyun and not take him as a disciple. Gu Yurong shook her head in disappointment. Sure enough, he became arrogant after obtaining some results. She felt that it was a pity. If this continued, he would be crippled sooner or later. Elders, this junior can cultivate 2 kinds of flames. My foundation is not bad. That's why I thought of asking the 2 elders to become this junior's master. It's not that this junior is greedy. It's just that this junior can cultivate like this. Yi Tianyun's expression did not change. He still maintained a faint smile. Everything was under his control. What? You can cultivate 2 kinds of flames? The 2 elders looked at each other. Yu Yanglong frowned and said, Yin and Yang flames cannot coexist. Are you sure you can coexist? Or should I say, the flames he cultivates are all ordinary? Yi Tianyun didn't use his mouth to explain. Instead, he raised his left hand and gently opened it. With a whoosh sound, the immortal fire rose up, causing the surrounding temperature to rise sharply. Immediately, he opened his right hand again. With a whoosh sound, the heavenly yin fire also rushed out, causing the surrounding temperature to plummet. 1 hot and 1 cold, 2 extreme flames. Especially when they were upgraded to high-rank heavenly fire, which belonged to the max level. Previously, when he was refining tools, he had already upgraded it to the max level. It can be said that it was completely impossible to upgrade it. Even if it wasn't at the max level before, he used his proficiency to smash it to the max level. After all, these 2 kinds of flames belonged to the high level. If he could upgrade it to the max level, he would do so. For him, refining tools and alchemy were of great help. Heavenly yin fire was a very good choice for alchemy. It was even better than the immortal fire. After Yi Tianyun released the 2 kinds of flames, he also let the 2 kinds of flames overlap without any conflict. The surrounding people were dumbfounded. They couldn't believe their eyes. They all knew about these 2 kinds of flames. Even if the name was different, the effect was absolutely clear. What? Heavenly yin fire and immortal fire, 2 kinds of flames. Yu Yanglong and Ming Yueqing were both dumbfounded. They felt that it was inconceivable. These 2 kinds of flames were mutually exclusive, yet they both existed in the same person. In fact, even if they were mutually exclusive, it was impossible for one side to be quite strong. This would easily cause a conflict, which could lead to an explosion. This kind of situation was not unheard of. Therefore, it was basically impossible to see 2 kinds of flames that were mutually exclusive. Otherwise, the 2 of them wouldn't feel dissatisfied. Because this matter was impossible, when Yi Tianyun said that he wanted them to become his master, they felt very unhappy. I don't know, 2 elders, can I become your disciple like this? Yi Tianyun looked at their shocked expression and felt quite satisfied. This was all within his expectations. Others also reacted. Their hearts were filled with shock. The previous ridicule had turned into shock, but even more so, they couldn't believe it. They even suspected that their eyes were playing tricks on them. This is not a problem at all. It's really a miracle. How did you do it? You actually cultivated 2 kinds of fan yu extreme flames to this level. If you let the 2 of us cultivate you, you may become the first powerhouse to have dual extreme ice and fire energy. Chapter 901. Ahem, I don't know if the 2 elders have any objections to becoming this junior's master. Do you think this junior is just talking big? This junior is not talking nonsense. I just think that if I want to have some achievements in this area, I would like to try it out. I just don't know if it's possible. Yi Tianyun's tone was neither servile nor overbearing, without the slightest bit of arrogance. He was completely a young man who loved to cultivate. Of course, of course. We weren't too clear just now and thought that you were biting off more than you could chew, but it turns out you have a special ability in this area. Yu Yanglong was pleasantly surprised. He immediately turned to Ming Yueqing and said, Old Ming, should we teach him together? Of course, no problem, I haven't been so excited in a long time. Ming Yueqing was pleasantly surprised. Not only did he create a record, but he also has such a special ability. If I don't accept him as a disciple, I will regret it for the rest of my life. The two of them were more excited than the other. It was as if they had encountered a top treasure, and it was even more exciting than a top treasure. After all, treasures could not grow, but people could. As they grew stronger, all treasures would fall to the side. The nearby Gu Yurong looked at Yi Tianyun as if she had seen a ghost. She was closer, so how could she not feel the power of the two flames? Originally, they thought that Yi Tianyun was too arrogant, but in the end, they discovered that they had misunderstood, and misunderstood very deeply. This is impossible. He actually has dual flames, and they even restrain each other. Bah, what's so great about this? He just happened to have a bit of luck. Maybe his body will explode in the end. Heh, this is really hard to say. Those who cultivate dual attributes can explode everywhere. Their tone was filled with jealousy. They thought that since Yi Tianyun cultivated dual attributes, he might be able to persist for now, but there was a possibility that his body would explode in the future. At that time, all the resources they had invested into him would be wasted, and that would be a huge loss. Of course, although they said this, they didn't dare to say it to the two elders face to face. They were both so excited, and if they tried to pour cold water on them, they would probably be thrown out. Disciple greets two masters. Yi Tianyun smiled and bowed. He had recognized these two masters just like that. How could he not want such a cheap master? Even though he had the system, he still needed a lot of resources. If he could get the help of two powerful Lord of Heaven, it would be hard for him not to become stronger. Although you could level up by killing monsters, don't forget that there were other ways to level up. For example, consuming elixirs or something. Perhaps it would be like the soul accumulating pill, which could provide explosive experience. Most importantly, he was unfamiliar with this place, so he could use this opportunity to familiarize himself with the situation here. With a backer behind him, killing monsters would be much easier. Good. The two elders were all smiles as they dragged Yi Tianyun inside. Let's go. Follow us inside. We can start preparing for the strengthening training soon. Your immortal flame and heavenly Yin flame are both at the level of Fan Yu. The true God domain flame has reached the level of demonic flame. After saying that, Yu Yanglong stretched out his hand and a flame gushed out from his palm. This flame was not red, but a white flame. The moment the flame appeared, the surrounding temperature immediately rose by hundreds of degrees. If not for their cultivation being not low, they would have been directly burned to ashes. White flame bone fire, reincarnation level high-grade flame, one of the 10 great demonic flames. It has an overbearing scorching flame that can burn all objects. Special effect, greatly increases the success rate of refining and alchemy. Reincarnation level flame. The grades here were no longer limited to heaven level. Above heaven level was reincarnation level. Generally speaking, the levels were reincarnation level, heavenly Tao level, heavenly God level, monarch level. This was applicable to the fire level, and it could also be applied to the weapon level. It was basically unified. Whether it was martial arts, flames, or weapons, they were all based on this standard. Above the heaven grade was the reincarnation grade. Above the divine grade was also the reincarnation grade. Yes, there is also my flame. Ming Yueqing also stretched out his hand. A green flame emerged from his palm and floated above his palm. The surroundings immediately began to freeze. The temperature dropped by hundreds of degrees, freezing the entire area. When the two flames of different attributes came into contact, a layer of mist quickly appeared between the layers. The ground began to burn. This was still under the situation of suppression. If it was not suppressed, the surrounding disciples, including Yi Tianyun, would have been quickly burned to ashes. The Lord of Heaven's cultivation was not a joke. He could easily crush them. Underworld devouring flame, reincarnation level high-grade flame, one of the 10 great demonic flames. It has the power of extreme cold. It can freeze all objects or directly turn them into powder. Special effect, greatly increases the success rate of refining pills. The 2 great demonic flames were owned by them. In terms of grade, they were much stronger than the immortal flame. The immortal flame belonged to the Fan Yu flame. It could only be regarded as an ordinary flame. It was not at the level of a demonic flame. However, there was no need to worry now. The 2 of them naturally had a way to increase the power of the flame. They could even replace it with their own demonic flame. However, it was definitely not easy. They had to be careful. Yi Tianyun's eyes lit up. He was pleasantly surprised. No problem. We will listen to the 2 masters. The others were about to explode with jealousy. Gu Yurong bit her lips. She didn't know what to say. She clenched her small hands and stood silently at the side. She looked lonely, as if she had been left out. It should be said that from the beginning, no one had paid attention to her. By the way, 2 masters, this is my friend. Can I take her with me? Yi Tianyun didn't forget to pull Gu Yurong. It wasn't that he had a good impression of Gu Yurong. It was that Gu Yanlong and the others didn't discriminate against humans. They even had a good impression of humans. He felt that he should take care of them. After all, Gu Yanlong had taken care of him. At least he wouldn't discriminate against him. If he went to the tree shaft, he would probably be kicked out before he could enter. The 2 of them looked at their disciple meaningfully. It was as if they were looking at their disciple's woman. Yu Yanglong smiled. Sure. Little girl, come with us. I believe your results won't be bad if you can join our core hall. Thank you, elders. Gu Yurong's eyes lit up. She wasn't stubborn to refuse. She came here to increase her strength or status. She would be a fool to refuse Yi Tianyun's good intentions. Chapter 902. As soon as they entered the main hall, a few youths immediately stood up and respectfully bowed to the 2 elders. Elder Yu, Elder Ming, please don't be anxious. The newcomers have just joined the core palace, and they still need to go through the welcoming ceremony. Don't forget this. Their cultivation was not low, all of them were at the peak of Star Monarch 8th or 9th layer. Among them, there were even first refinement or second refinement Earth Monarch. Their talent is amazing, but they still haven't been selected as a disciple. This time Yi Tianyun became a disciple. Let them watch the excitement, they are jealous. Welcoming ceremony. Yi Tianyun narrowed his eyes and looked at them, as well as the surrounding disciples. All of their eyes were filled with hostility, but most of them were filled with jealousy. He knew that his actions would definitely make people jealous, especially the human race, which made them feel even more dissatisfied and humiliated. After all, there were so many disciples, but there was not a single human. There were more than 100 people around, and aside from him, there was basically no other human here. No wonder the human race was discriminated against. Without any strong experts supporting them, how could they have any face? But in comparison, the gap was not small. All of them were young, but their cultivation was extremely heaven-defying. Among them, bloodline played a big role. Some were born with Spirit King stage cultivation. This was the gap. Unless the human cultivator was a strong cultivator, otherwise, the children they gave birth to would not have high cultivation. How could they not be discriminated against if their starting point was lower than the other races? The more discriminated, the more they couldn't bear to see them become stronger, or stand higher than them. I almost forgot about the welcoming ceremony. Yu Yanglong scratched his messy hair, looked at him and said, as long as the newcomers join the core palace, they must go through the welcoming ceremony. If the results are good, they will not be punished, otherwise, they will be punished. Of course, if the results are good, they will get extra rewards. There are no exceptions, so if the 2 of you want to enter, you have to go through the welcoming ceremony first. Of course, if the two of you are not in good condition, you can rest outside, and after the welcoming ceremony, you can officially enter. What ritual? Yi Tianyun looked at the mocking expressions of the people in front of him. It was obvious that this welcoming ceremony would not be a simple one. It would definitely not be a simple welcoming ceremony. A welcoming ceremony of eating and drinking was absolutely impossible. Looking at their faces, they probably wouldn't even be able to say the word, welcome. Instead, they would say the word, trash. The welcome ceremony is very simple. You just have to carve your name on the stone tablet and leave your name on it. Yu Yanglong said, this has always been the rule of the core hall. Unless you leave the heavenly mandate divine realm or die, your name will always be on it. As he spoke, Yu Yanglong pointed to the side where there was a huge stone tablet. Rather than calling it a stone tablet, it would be better to call it a wall. From here, one could see many names. As far as the eye could see, there were at least 10,000 names. This meant that there were 10,000 disciples in the core hall. However, out of the tens of thousands of disciples, only one could persist for 10 days. This ratio was terrifyingly low. It seemed that persisting for 10 days was too difficult. Although there were many disciples, not all of them were in the core hall. After all, Yu Yanglong had said that as long as they did not betray the heavenly mandate divine realm or were dead, they would continue to stay up there. Therefore, some of them had powerful cultivations and went out to gain experience, or they held important positions and so on. In theory, they were not considered disciples of the core hall. However, they did not die and did not betray the heavenly mandate divine realm. Therefore, they would stay up there. Nianxiu, this name is the most eye-catching. It's in the top area. Yi Tianyun looked carefully at the huge wall and found that the name at the top was only Nianxiu. The ones that were closer to the bottom were all dozens of feet away. They were not on the same level at all. Of course, there were also many names engraved at the bottom. He did not know how they were arranged. Nianxiu, this is the one who set the record of 10 days of baptism in the divine realm. A female lord of heaven, a role model for us women. Gu Yurong's eyes were full of fanatical worship. She worshipped Nianxiu very much. She should have seen her as her idol. And she is a strong woman. Yi Tianyun was stunned. He thought that the record holder would be a male. He did not expect it to be a female cultivator. This surprised him. Little brother, this is our welcome ceremony. The method is very simple. You just need to engrave your name on it. However, you don't use your hands or weapons. You use your spiritual energy. I heard that you lasted for 14 days. This is incredible. Since that's the case, logically speaking, you should be able to surpass senior sister Nian. If you don't, you'll become a laughing stock. The one who answered was naturally the brother here. His name was Zhou Ruanjie. He looked at him with a smile and explained in a very friendly manner. However, a hint of jealousy and disdain flashed in his eyes. It had already revealed what was going on in his heart. Of course, Yi Tianyun knew that he was not up to any good from the negative level of affection. Regardless of whether he was a disciple of Yu Yanglong or not, he should indeed call him brother. He should have called him brother when he just entered. As expected, he is up to no good. Yi Tianyun smiled. These guys just wanted to make things difficult for him. They wanted to see him make a fool of himself. If he could not surpass Nianxiu, it meant that persisting for 14 days was also useless. He was still not as good as Nianxiu. Nianxiu was not of the same race as them, but at least she was not a human. Ahem, that's pretty much it. This welcome ceremony has a standard line. If you engrave it too low, you will be punished. Yu Yanglong pointed at the bottom of the wall. He said, if it is lower than this line, you will be punished. The punishment is very simple. You will have to help water the back mountain and take care of the spiritual medicine for 3 years. Yu Yanglong and the others, of course, knew what these guys were thinking. However, they did not expose them. Competition was a good thing. They also knew where the problem was. However, as long as there was no underhanded means, they would not care. For example, if it was a normal challenge, as long as it was not a sinister person, no one would care. If they secretly got rid of Yi Tianyun, they would definitely be furious. The heavenly mandate divine region was extremely against this kind of situation. Once it was found out, it would be a capital punishment. Chapter 903. Junior brother or junior sister, who will go first? Zhou Ruanjie smiled as he looked at the two of them. He wanted to see who would go first. Anyway, to him, Yi Tianyun's results were the most important. Gu Yurong's results had nothing to do with him. He wanted to see if Yi Tianyun could surpass Nian Xiyu's record. If he couldn't break it, then it would be a joke. I'll go first. Gu Yurong stood up. She didn't start from the back but chose to start first. The purpose of her doing this was to prove herself. She wanted others to notice her, and not to be a transparent person. Yi Tianyun's light was too dazzling. Even if she was a dazzling star, compared to Yi Tianyun's sun, she was nothing. Then, junior sister will go first. Zhou Ruanjie stood to the side and indicated for her to carve her name first. This welcoming ceremony not only tested the strength of one's mental energy, but it also allowed everyone to know the name of the newcomer. Although it was called a welcoming ceremony, it was actually a self-introduction. However, this self-introduction relied on one's ability to prove oneself. If the name was carved low, it meant that one's mental energy was not good enough. Mental energy was equivalent to the strength of one's soul. The stronger one's mental energy was, the more benefits it would bring to cultivation. It was basically equivalent to talent. Especially mental energy, it was the hardest to cultivate. Most cultivators could only be considered to have just started. Breaking through to the star venerate level was considered to have just started. Hence, this welcoming ceremony was a way to test one's mental energy talent. Gu Yurong came to the wall and placed her hand on it. Then, she slowly closed her eyes. Following that, a formless energy surged out of her body. Immediately, the wall started to emit a faint light. This light kept surging upwards. At first, it was quite fast. However, when it reached about 3 meters, it suddenly slowed down. This proved that from here on, the difficulty started to increase. Mental energy could not surge upwards. However, Gu Yurong still managed to reach the passing line in one breath and continued to rush upwards. However, her speed started to slow down. However, it was fine. She just had to climb up slowly. She climbed up inch by inch. Soon, she reached 3 meters, 6 meters, and then 10 meters. His speed was neither fast nor slow as he climbed up. Soon, he surpassed many of his fellow disciples and even achieved good results. Because the higher one went, the fewer names there were. There were the most people at the bottom, but the number of people at the top began to decrease rapidly. However, compared to Nian Xiyu who was hundreds of feet tall, the difference was still too great. He had only climbed 30 feet and it was already very strenuous. He didn't know how that Nian Xiyu carved words on it. However, there was no need to compete with Nian Xiyu. It was fine to compete with others. When he climbed to about 30 feet, the surrounding names dropped drastically. He had managed to squeeze into the top 3,000, leaving the 7,000-odd people behind. Moreover, the fact that she could continue climbing without stopping proved that Gu Yurong still had potential. Yu Yanglong and the others looked at Gu Yurong and their eyes lit up. She looked like a promising talent, especially since she could continue to climb up. However, Gu Yurong's forehead was covered in sweat. It was enough to show that this wasn't an easy task. Junior sister, I suggest that you carve words within the range that you can bear. If you just charge upwards, it will be extremely difficult. Zhou Ruanjie reminded her. He didn't have much to say to Yi Tianyun, but he didn't have any enmity towards Gu Yurong. He immediately became a normal senior brother. An senior brother who cared and took care of people. Gu Yurong didn't say anything. She focused all her energy on the wall, so how would she have the energy to reply? She didn't listen to Zhou Ruanjie and continued to charge upwards. She wanted to carve words at a higher place. If she wanted to get better treatment, she had to show off. Especially with two elders behind her, how could she not work hard? Yi Tianyun looked at her from behind and couldn't help but nod his head. Gu Yurong worked hard, not because she liked to show off, but because she wanted to prove herself. Only by proving herself would she be able to get better treatment. Very quickly, her mental strength continued to charge upwards. When it reached the 50 feet mark, it was a little difficult to go further. At this time, there were only a few hundred people left. This meant that she had made it into the top 1,000 in one go. This was really not easy. Initially, there were many who could last more than 7 days, but there were very few who could reach the 50 feet mark. At the very least, she had made it from the top 10,000 to the top 1,000. This was much better than many of the cultivators present. Many of the cultivators present could at most reach the 30 to 40 feet mark. Only a few could reach more than 50 feet. All of them looked at Gu Yurong with different expressions. They didn't expect her to have such potential. It was really impressive. Finally, she started to carve her name. It was as if there was a transparent carving knife on the wall. She started to carve her name bit by bit. Stroke by stroke, she carved Gu Yurong's name on the wall. Carving her name was even more difficult than climbing up. After all, the difficulty of leaving a mark on the wall was no less than climbing up. Even so, she still carved her name on the wall bit by bit. Looking at the name one by one, they couldn't help but feel a sense of admiration. Soon, the 3 words Gu Yurong were carved on the area a little more than 15 meters high. After it was done, Gu Yurong sat on the ground as if she had collapsed. Her entire body was drenched in sweat, as if she had just been fished out of the water. One had to say that Gu Yurong's situation was very bad. She had overdrawn herself. It was not easy for her to persist to this point. If she failed, she would have to start all over again. One could imagine how difficult it was. Junior apprentice Sister Gu, good job. That's right. The level of your mental strength is not bad. It seems that your foundation is very good. One by one, they began to applaud. They all felt that Gu Yurong's performance was very good. Not bad, not bad. You are a girl with great potential. Work hard. I am optimistic about you. Ming Yuqing smiled at Gu Yurong and praised her. Many thanks for Elder Ming's praise. Gu Yurong stood up and bowed respectfully. Her beautiful eyes were filled with joy. This was the result she wanted. She had to show her ability and prove that she had potential. Only then would she be able to stand firmly in the core hall. Immediately, she retreated. When she looked at Yi Tianyun, she nodded lightly, indicating that Yi Tianyun could go ahead and carve her name. This time, everyone's eyes were focused on him. They wanted to see if he could break Nian Siyu's record. That was a height of 130 feet. Compared to the second place, it was more than 40 feet. It was simply an existence on a different level. Yi Tianyun smiled. Wasn't it just playing with mental strength and control? Compared to this, who could he be afraid of? He was now a creator-level divine pattern master. Chapter 904. Yi Tianyun felt that the reason why Nian Xiyu could obtain such shocking results was because she herself was a very strong divine rune master. Of course, only those who had reached the peak level of the creator of Fan Yu were qualified to be called divine engraving masters. Those below the divine carver master would naturally be addressed in the same way as Fan Yu. It was just that those at the top would not be addressed as creators. This was too exaggerated. It couldn't really create anything. Fan Yu referred to him as such because at this level, he was able to create powerful divine inscriptions. Hence, Although they were called creators, in reality, they were only at the entry level of the god domain. They were definitely not creators. As long as one had a strong divine inscription master level, then leaving a deep mark on the surface wouldn't be a problem at all. Therefore, he inferred that Nian Xiaoyu was absolutely a very strong divine inscription master. After all, a divine inscription master's mental strength was very strong. If one's mental strength was not strong enough, it would be easy to fail. Of course, it was also possible that they were born with strong spiritual power. It was not that there were no such people. Some people were born with explosive spiritual power, and there was really no way to compare with such people. As he lifted his foot to walk up the wall, the sound of discussion immediately rang out behind him. I dare say that he will never be able to surpass senior sister Nian. I think so too. Previously, there was someone who persisted for more than 9 days and almost reached 10 days. The record had not been broken, but it was infinitely close. But when it comes to carving the name, the difference is like heaven and earth. It's not even on the same level. That's right. To be able to leave your name high up in the rankings is true strength. Maybe he's the type that looks strong on the outside but is weak on the inside. He can't even reach a height of 1 zhang. All of them thought so. They felt that breaking the record was not a problem. The real focus was to leave their names on it. They were waiting to see Yi Tianyun make a fool out of himself. So what if Yi Tianyun achieved a height of 30 to 40 feet? Even if he achieved a height of 80 to 90 feet, it would still be a joke to them. As long as he didn't surpass Nian Xiu, he would be ridiculed. Persisting for 14 days was meaningless. This was the only way to prove one's strength. For example, no matter how talented one was, he couldn't be called a super genius if he was beaten black and blue in a fight. Everything would be determined by actual combat, not by using certain things to measure one's ability. Little did they know that these were just sour grapes in their hearts. After all, no matter what, he was still much stronger than them. It was just that they liked to comfort themselves in this way, the mentality of the weak. I don't know how his mental strength is, but I think it shouldn't be too bad. Yu Yanglong smiled as he looked at Yi Tianyun. It's just that to surpass that last Nian Xiaoyu, I'm afraid this is a little more difficult. I think so too. To be able to control 2 types of flames at the same time, one's spiritual energy can't be weak. The problem is that the girl Nian Xiu is too powerful. She is born with a powerful soul. She is definitely a great divine card of our heavenly mandate realm. Ming Yuqing sighed. The two of them didn't think that Yi Tianyun would surpass Nian Xiaoyu. They had seen how heaven-defying Nian Xiaoyu was. They didn't think that Yi Tianyun could surpass her. Yi Tianyun didn't care about what they were thinking. He went to the bottom of the wall and looked up. The words, Nian Xiaoyu, were imprinted on the top of the wall. Although the words weren't big, compared to the name below, it gave off a feeling of superiority. The corner of his mouth curled up, and then he reached out and covered the wall, quickly mobilizing the mental strength in his brain. Buzz! In an instant, the whole wall trembled. His overbearing mental strength, like a bolt of lightning, suddenly rushed to a height of 3 or 4 feet in one breath, and then quickly climbed up. 5 feet. In a short time of a breath, he had easily surpassed Gu Yurong's result, and there was no sign of slowing down, continuing to rush up. 6 feet. 7 feet. 8 feet. The speed was fast and fierce. When Yi Tianyun controlled his mental strength to go up, he could indeed feel the resistance inside, but he still easily rushed up, as if he was piercing through a piece of paper. He quickly rushed up to 9 feet. 10 feet. 11 feet. 13 feet. In a short period of time, he had already reached the same height as Nian Xiu. However, he was only slightly higher than Nian Xiu by an inch. Immediately, 3 large words were fiercely branded on it. Yi Tianyun. Dong, dong, dong. The 3 big words seemed to be imprinted on the wall. It was incomparably easy, and it moved people. The whole process took less than the time for half an incense stick to burn, and he easily reached the target. Previously, when Gu Yurong was carving this name, she spent a full hour to carve her name in the area of 5 feet. Yi Tianyun only spent less than the time for half an incense stick to burn to crush Nian Xiayu's height, and he directly carved his name on the wall an inch away. His limit was just a little higher than Nian Xiayu's. Of course, it couldn't be like that. Many people could see that Yi Tianyun did it on purpose. No one knew where his limit was, and he purposely went a little higher than Nian Xiayu. Everything was done with ease, and it was extremely easy. Everyone was dumbfounded, including the 2 teachers. If it was them, their results would definitely be much better than Yi Tianyun's, and it wouldn't be a problem for them to run a few dozen feet. But under the circumstances of this level of cultivation, they couldn't do it to this extent. Previously, he said that he wouldn't surpass Nian Xiayu, but now he easily surpassed her, and he could even carve his name a little higher. He was obviously telling everyone that he just wanted to surpass Nian Xiayu. It was very simple, and that was to surpass her, but not by too much, so that no one knew what Yi Tianyun's limit was. The corner of Yi Tianyun's mouth curled up into a smile, and he turned to look at them and said, "Teachers, I wonder what my result is like." "Good, good." The 2 elders' faces turned red. This was because they were excited, and it was like they were slapped in the face. They were still very excited. After all, this was their own disciple. Wasn't it good for their disciple to be a little stronger? After Gu Yurong saw Yi Tianyun's result, her hanging heart immediately relaxed. Following that, she shook her head and revealed a bitter smile. Luckily she went first. If she went later, then no one would care about her, and they would only stare at Yi Tianyun's name. This name was so conspicuous. It was even a little higher than Nian Xiayu's, above all the other names. Zhou Ruanjie's expression was ugly. He originally thought that he could make things difficult for Yi Tianyun, but who knew that he would steal the limelight instead, shocking all the core hall disciples. If the Divine Realm baptism was boring, then what about carving names? What kind of saying was that? Chapter 905. All of them couldn't be jealous of Yi Tianyun. This was already heaven-defying. Where were they? They were all at the standard of 4 to 5 feet. The highest was around 7 to 8 feet. The gap between them and Yi Tianyun was really too big. Previously, they thought that Yi Tianyun wouldn't be able to surpass Nian Xiyu. Who knew that it would be so easy? They didn't know how long Nian Xiyu had spent to leave her name at such a high level. In short, the time that Yi Tianyun spent was too short. Before they could react, he had already completed everything. Everything was so fast and so violent. That's right, it was quite violent. They had never seen such a violent way of carving words. It crushed everyone. "Senior brothers, what do you think of my result?" Yi Tianyun looked at Zhou Ruanjie and the others. At this moment, he naturally wouldn't be stingy with his words. This is not bad." Zhou Ruanjie was extremely embarrassed. He wanted to make things difficult for Yi Tianyun, but in the end, he dug a hole for himself. Now, he didn't know what to say. Then, there are no more problems. The welcoming ceremony is over. "Masters, can we go in?" Yi Tianyun couldn't be bothered with him. He would rather focus on doing something. "Yes, let's go." The 2 elders smiled and brought Yi Tianyun inside. "What are you thinking about?" "Let's go." Yi Tianyun patted Gu Yurong's shoulder, indicating for her to follow him. Gu Yurong recovered from her shock. Then, she hesitated for a while before choosing to follow. The group of people looked at each other. Their eyes were still fixed on the 3 huge words, Yi Tianyun, on the wall. They couldn't come back to their senses for a long time. "Senior brother Zhou, this kid's level is so high. Isn't he going to step on our heads?" A cultivator at the side said anxiously. "How is that possible?" Zhou Ruanjia's eyes surged with a hint of viciousness. I don't believe that he is also incomparably strong in battle. I will find a time to challenge him and beat him up. Then, I will make him behave. What the hell? He's clearly a human. How can he be so strong? That's right. Beat him down so hard that he can't stay in the core hall any longer. They really couldn't believe it. How could a race that had always been at the bottom suddenly rise up? This was like a student with poor grades suddenly becoming the top student the next day. Who could believe it? However, the truth was right before their eyes. They had no choice but to believe it. They could only use other methods to suppress Yi Tianyun. They couldn't bear to see a human riding on their heads, so they had to think of a way to deal with Yi Tianyun. All of them had sinister expressions on their faces, but some didn't join in. After all, some did not dislike the human race and were considered neutral, while others had a favorable impression of the human race. With so many races, some would more or less not reject the human race, while some would reject it very much. Overall, the majority of them were against it. While they were plotting, the two elders brought Yi Tianyun and Gu Yurong to the main hall. They passed through many passageways and even took the teleportation array. After changing locations several times, they finally arrived at the elders' main hall. The elders' main hall was specially built for the two elders to stay in. Along the way, Yi Tianyun saw many cultivators. Some were from the same sect, and some were other attendants. Of course, the core hall wasn't just for the disciples. There were also many cultivators with lower cultivation. They were in charge of cleaning the place, or taking care of the flowers, herbs, and the like. This was a planet, so there couldn't be only a few thousand people here. Many cultivators stayed here, busy with many things, and the division of labor was clear. This is the elders' hall. They sure are generous. Yi Tianyun looked up. It wasn't that the buildings here were luxurious, but there was a large array that kept absorbing the stellar power from above. First, it flowed into the elders' main hall, then into the other halls. Therefore, the stellar power in the elders' main hall was the densest. The other halls weren't bad either. It was much denser than the planet they came from. It was like a heaven for cultivation. It was even better compared to the three realms. The best cultivation place in the three realms couldn't compare to this small corner. In particular, this place provided him with astral powers instead of spiritual powers. Apart from that, there were many dense divine runes on it, and any one of them was extremely profound. Compared to the ones he had encountered before, it was like heaven and earth. No wonder the evil spirit race looked down on the divine runes they had set up. This level could only be regarded as a very ordinary beginner level here. At least a third-grade divine inscriber can carve this level. Yi Tianyun struck the divine rune twice. It was a super reinforced divine rune. Even if he attacked it, he wouldn't be able to damage it at all. Unless one's cultivation was a whole realm higher, it would be impossible to damage this place. Then, under the guidance of the two elders, they came to the elders' main hall. As soon as they entered, they saw that it was divided into three passages. One was very hot, and the other was very cold. There was no doubt that the passage on the left would lead to the area where Yu Yanglong was, and the other would lead to the area where Ming Yueqing was. Only the middle passage was normal. They brought Yi Tianyun to the middle passage. After entering, it was empty, and there was nothing inside. The surroundings were connected in all directions, but they didn't know where it led to. Yi Tianyun found that the reinforced divine runes in this area were even more powerful, several times stronger than the ones outside. This is the place where the two of us usually spar. From time to time, we might get some inspiration. Yu Yanglong saw that Yi Tianyun and the others were curious, so he explained. This is a martial arts field. Yi Tianyun nodded. No wonder there were so many reinforcements here. When two Lord of Heaven fought, how could the power not be terrifying? If they didn't reinforce a few more layers here, the core hall would be smashed to pieces. More or less the same. Yu Yanglong smiled and said, "How do you feel now? Can we start immediately?" He was already eager to give it a try, and Ming Yueqing was also the same. He wanted to let Yi Tianyun try immediately, to see if he could master their flame. Not a lot, but at least a little bit to see the degree of compatibility. "No problem, we can start now." Yi Tianyun was not long-winded. Before coming here, he had already rested enough, so he was full of energy. "That's exactly what we wanted." Yu Yanglong smiled at Gu Yurong and said, "Little girl, you just stay on the side and watch. If you have the slightest feeling for any of the flames, we can let you try. Let's see if you can grasp this opportunity." Thank you, Elder." Gu Yurong's tender body trembled, almost crying. "You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.